Chapter 1779. Another expert has arrived in Wanzhou. At this moment, many old figures in the ancient lands of Wanzhou were alarmed. The commotion in Onyx Underworld Mountain could not escape the domain realm experts of Wanzhou. They had long known that the desolate country was behind it, so they only watched from afar and pretended not to know anything to avoid getting into trouble. However, such a huge commotion was too great, making the top experts of Wanzhou unable to sit still. One figure after another broke through the air. "Little bastard, it's just a spirit clone. You're courting death." In the void of the mountains, there was no delay. Qin Tianxi snorted coldly without any hesitation. With the momentum, it was as if a part of the world was collapsing. The vast void was distorted like a fried dough twist. Huff huff. There was no chance of escape in the face of such a terrifying and mighty attack. Everyone was shocked and on tenterhooks. At this moment, even Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Qiu Li, and the others frowned secretly. An existence like Qin Tianxi's cultivation could be said to be heavenly. It was too terrifying. Just as everyone in the desolate country was gasping and keeping quiet out of fear, Du Xiaofu's spirit clone, the red-bone horse monkey, had a cold smile on his face. With a wave of his hand, a brocade box appeared. Then, a crimson ball the size of a baby's fist wrapped in purple lightning appeared in the hands of Du Xiaofu's spirit clone. This ball was crystal clear like glass, but if one looked carefully, one would discover that this small ball was surrounded by a pitch-black spatial halo. It was deep and boundless, making one's soul tremble with fear just by looking at it. "Let's see who's going to die." "I'll kill you," a faint voice came out from the mouth of the red-bone horse monkey. Suddenly, a murderous intent shot out from Du Xiaofu's thunder spirit eyes. With a flick of his finger, the scarlet ball that was wrapped in purple electric arcs suddenly shot out. Chi La! The ball wrapped in purple lightning arcs swept through the air and immediately turned into a blurry purple and red afterimage. It rushed like lightning towards Qin Tianxi, who was rushing over with great momentum. This crystal-clear crimson ball wrapped in lightning was none other than the blazing thunder bullet that Du Xiaofu had obtained from the Lord of the 3,000 Worlds in the Divine Realm. According to the Lord of the 3,000 Worlds, even a peak master realm cultivator would not be able to withstand a single blazing thunder bullet. Du Xiaofu did not want to waste such a treasure. But at this moment, Du Xiaofu was merely a Yuan Shen avatar. If he had encountered a peak Grand Dominion realm expert, he wouldn't have used the blazing lightning bullet. At this moment, Du Xiaofu dared to fight against a peak Grand Domain realm cultivator with just his Yuan Shen avatar. However, Qin Tianxi was not to be underestimated. He might be a late-stage master realm cultivator or even a peak master realm cultivator. Moreover, Du Xiaofu had an irreconcilable enmity with legalism. With Qin Tianxi's cultivation and status in legalism, Du Xiaofu would not feel that a single blazing thunder bullet was a waste if he could kill Qin Tianxi. If he could kill Qin Tianxi, it would be an absolute deterrent to legalism. Boom! As soon as the blazing thunder bullet appeared, the entire space was filled with a blazing destructive energy. The blazing energy was very strange. It was like the origin energy of the heavens and earth. As for that destructive energy, Du Xiaofu could clearly sense that it was the aura of the purple gold Xian lightning. With the purple gold Xian lightning exploding in the sky, purple lightning arcs crisscrossed and covered the entire sky. Swoosh! At the same time, Du Xiaofu's Qin Tianxi's blazing thunder bullet retreated rapidly with a malicious smile on his face. Boom! Boom! Qin Tianxi stirred up the wind and clouds of the heavens and earth. Accompanied by the momentum of the heavens and earth, it was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The runes of the talisman crisscrossed brilliantly. The heavens and earth cracked, the void collapsed, and the mountains below broke apart. How shocking was the scene! The blazing thunder bullet swept through the sky, covered with purple gold Xian lightning, and directly swept into the distorted void. The raging flame thunder bullet rushed over, and Qin Tianxi's expressions suddenly began to change. How powerful was Qin Tian's momentum? He could naturally feel that the scarlet afterimage that was covered with purple lightning arcs contained a majestic and terrifying violent energy and destructive aura as it rushed over. When the scarlet ball wrapped in lightning arcs pierced through space, it brought along an increasingly hot and violent destructive energy that spread out, causing Qin Tianxi's heart to suddenly feel a chill for no reason. Feeling such a change, Qin Tianxi stared at the red ball wrapped in lightning arcs above the sky. The more it expanded, the more terrifying the blazing destructive energy erupted. The entire void suddenly trembled, and the majestic blazing destruction could be filled. It could not be suppressed in his magic potential, like a volcano about to erupt. Not good, what is this? At the moment, Qin Tianxi's face suddenly surged with shock and horror. Feeling the majestic and blazing destructive energy, Qin Tianxi was quickly horrified, and his eyes revealed absolute uneasiness and fear. Such a blazing destructive aura, as powerful as her, at this moment, Qin Tianxi's heart was also frightened, and a chill gushed out from the bottom of his heart. Under this absolute dangerous aura, Qin Tianxi could not care about dealing with Du Xiaofu's blazing thunderbolt. The momentum of the heavens and earth wanted to block the strange ball, and the figure began to escape like a ghost. Under the absolute dangerous aura, Qin Tianxi did not hesitate to escape. To be able to become one of the top powerhouses in the world, Qin Tianxi relied not only on his talent and strength, but also on his cautious character. The risks that should not be taken, Qin Tianxi would never take risks. But it was too late. Qin Tianxi wanted to tear the space and retreat. At this moment, it was too late to escape. Qila! In an instant, the raging flames burning thunder bullet instantly flashed and expanded in the space of Qin Tianxi's spell. The strange phenomenon of the void in the sky was dyed red and purple by the arc, and the air was evaporated clean. The crimson light with the invisible flame and the destruction of the purple-gold profound thunder, like a meteorite impact. Rumble, purple lightning arcs and crimson light swelled. The rich and scorching destruction energy suddenly reached a terrifying level. The surrounding space of several thousand feet was distorted. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. A terrifying scorching destruction energy storm swept out from the distorted space. In the next moment, the raging flames thunder bullet exploded in the space of Qin Tianxi's spell like an atomic bomb. There was a continuous sound of sonic booms, and suddenly in the sky like thunder, reverberating in the sky at this moment, Qin Tianxi's eyes were full of horror, and his expression changed greatly. He seemed to feel something and his pupils began to shrink. Pung pung pung, the raging flames thunder bullet completely exploded, and the terrifying blazing destructive energy storm swept out. The sound of thunder reverberated in the sky. The space was exploding, and the void was blasted open, revealing the dark void. It was as if a black hole was opened, and it could swallow everything. Qin Tianxi's terrifying attack, the spell suppressed everything and the strange phenomenon in the sky. At this moment, the shadow of the stars was collapsing and falling, the shadow of the beasts was exploding, and the runes were broken. It was unstoppable and was blasted open. Walala, the blazing energy was released, turning into monstrous flames and monstrous purple arcs. It contained an extremely terrifying blazing energy storm, and it swept out in all directions in an instant. The space ripples were directly overturned into pitch-black space cracks. The space was chaotic, and the line of sight was blurred. It was as if the arc of light enveloped the space and intertwined with the sky. Rumble, the mountains on the earth were also exploding. The mountains collapsed, and the earth cracked. The mountain peaks were swept up and directly razed to the ground. The ground cracked, and the gravel turned into fine powder. Goo goo, as the terrifying blazing destructive energy wreaked havoc, everyone in the distance looked on with horrified gazes. At this moment, in the distant void, many old figures had already appeared. Those were the top experts of Wanzhou, and they were also horrified. In that chaotic space, it was difficult for these old figures to clearly peek inside. That destructive and scorching lightning energy caused their hearts to palpitate. Walala, the terrifying energy ripples surged, destroying everything. In a short period of time, the terrifying energy was swallowed by the black hole-like void. Then, everything began to disperse and calmness was restored. Qi-La, when everything had calmed down, the void recovered a lot, and Qin Tianxi's figure appeared in the void. At this moment, Qin Tianxi's eyes were dull, and he had lost his spirit. His body was covered in an ancient and strange armor, like the hard scales of a fierce beast covering his body. However, the armor on Qin Tianxi's body was obviously an ancient treasure, but for some reason, it did not have any light, as if it had become a kind of ordinary scale. There were also faint purple arcs of lightning flowing on the armor. However, as the purple arcs of lightning flowed, the scale armor on Qin Tianxi's body also cracked, and there were even more blazing and resplendent arcs of lightning drilling out from it. From the inside to the outside, there was a Qi-La sound, as if the flesh was also cracking. Ping. It was a long story, but in fact, it was also in an instant. After the scale armor on Qin Tianxi's body cracked, under the horrified gazes of everyone around, his body directly exploded. Peng. Qin Tianxi's body turned into a bloody mist, and in an instant, there was a bright light that drowned the void. Such a super expert, one of the ancestors of legalism. Qin Tianxi, such a person with his cultivation, was enough to rank among the top experts in the world. Looking at the world, how many people could be compared to him? However, such an expert was blown to pieces in front of everyone's eyes, causing everyone to be horrified in an instant. Chapter 1780. Qin Tianshi is dead? At that moment, Yi Piaoling, Qiu Li, and Du Yunlong, who had retreated a long time ago, were stunned. It was as if a world had exploded in front of them. Destructive energy rippled in all directions, and Qin Tianshi's physical body had exploded. However, at that moment, Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar, the red-bone horse monkey's body, narrowed its eyes after Qin Tianshi exploded. Arcs of lightning surged. Qi-La. In the pitch-black space that had exploded, pitch-black spatial cracks rippled. Resplendent light erupted, and origin spirit power spread through the void. A palm-sized ball of light appeared, but it emitted light that filled the void. The faint image of a dragon entrenched in golden light could be seen. In the end, the ball of light turned into the infant-sized Qin Tianshi. The light was dim, but it was still dazzling to ordinary people. The image of a dragon fluctuated. It was the imperial palace's dragon chi that had fused with the origin spirit, allowing it to receive the protection of the world. The aura around the infant-sized Qin Tianshi distorted the void. His expression was ferocious and furious, but it was also filled with shock and despair. That's the origin spirit of the patriarch of legalism, Qin Tianshi. In the distance, the experts of Wanzhou were shocked. The great patriarch of legalism, Qin Tianshi, had actually had his physical body blown apart. Only his origin spirit remained. He actually still has his origin spirit left. It has something to do with the armor and the imperial palace's dragon chi. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar could see the true form of the red-bone horse monkey's body. Qin Tianshi's armor was a saint artifact, and he also had the imperial palace's dragon chi, allowing him to receive the protection of the world. Qin Tianshi should have been at the peak of the Lord Realm and was extremely close to the Saint Realm. That was why his physical body had been blown apart by the Raging Flames bomb, but he had some means to preserve his origin spirit. However, under the prying of Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar, Qin Tianshi's origin spirit had suffered heavy injuries even though it had survived. Origin spirit? In a short moment, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit avatar, the red-bone horse monkey's body, had already rushed out. Silver-gold electric arcs fluctuated, which was the nemesis of primordial spirits. It directly attacked Qin Tianshi's primordial spirit. "Little bastard, I will never let you off." Qin Tianshi's voice was filled with incomparable resentment. His primordial spirit emitted a faint cold light, but his primordial spirit body turned into a rainbow and fled quickly. The flesh body exploded, preserving the body of the primordial spirit, but as Du Xiaofu expected, Qin Tianshi preserved the primordial spirit, but the primordial spirit also suffered heavy damage. Sensing the spiritual thunder aura on Du Xiaofu's body, Qin Tianshi had long known that Li Chunfa and the other soul avatars had been devoured by Du Xiaofu. He was afraid that the little bastard still had some means to restrain the power of the soul. Furthermore, there were still experts like Old Lei in the desolate country. If they were to rush over, it would be a disaster. As such, how could Qin Tianshi dare to stay? He didn't even dare to fight Du Xiaofu's essence soul avatar. He didn't have much strength left to fight against Du Xiaofu's essence soul avatar, so he immediately fled. Where do you think you're going? Du Xiaofu shouted, and his essence soul avatar immediately chased after Qin Tianshi. He didn't want to let Qin Tianshi's primordial spirit go. Then, under everyone's gazes, they saw a shocking scene. Qin Tianshi was an existence that few people in the world could match. However, at this moment, not only was his flesh body destroyed, his primordial spirit was also being chased by Du Xiaofu's essence soul avatar. One primordial spirit, one soul avatar. The two figures instantly disappeared into the void. The surroundings returned to peace, but the area within a radius of an unknown number of miles had been razed to the ground and turned into nothingness. The terrifying energy of the explosion was too terrifying, and it could destroy everything. This is the desolate country taking revenge on legalism. The world is already changing. An old figure floated in the void far away. At this moment, his eyes were deep, and his face was rippling with unconcealable shock. He had also been on the Qinhuang mainland, and he had even entered the divine realm later on. Naturally, he knew Du Xiaofu's essence soul avatar and Qin Tianshi. "I'm afraid legalism doesn't have much luck left," said a beautiful middle-aged woman. She was an existence of the older generation. Her aura was powerful and her eyes sparkled. She was very otherworldly. In the surrounding void, the experts from Wanzhou also had complicated expressions on their faces. Behind the void, the desolate country's experts who had retreated slowly came to their senses. Even Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Chen Guyu, and the others didn't expect that Du Xiaofu's essence soul avatar would have such a terrifying item that could directly blow up Qin Tianshi's body. Just a moment ago, an existence like Qin Tianshi's essence soul would have been completely destroyed. Third brother's essence soul avatar will be fine. There's no need to worry. The plan needs to be changed, Du Yunlong said. Then he and Yi Piaoling exchanged a glance, as if they had reached some kind of tacit understanding. Their eyes suddenly swept across the experts from Wanzhou floating in the void, and they said, "Seniors of Wanzhou, the desolate country has no intention of interfering in Wanzhou, nor do we have any intention of targeting you. We only want to eradicate those who have converted to legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. Seniors who have nothing to do with this, please excuse us. The desolate country thanks you." As his voice rang out, it resounded through the void. The expressions of the old figures in the void changed slightly, but they weren't surprised. They immediately continued to retreat as if in tacit understanding. However, among them, there were also several figures who were stunned in the void, their expressions changing abruptly. In the entire Wanzhou, there were not only converts to legalism, but also converts to the 9 great families. The situation in the entire Kyushu was similar. There were forces that the 9 great families had cultivated and supported outside. They were called converts. For example, in Zhongzhou, the ancient heaven sect was a convert to the school of Moism, and the immeasurable sect was a convert to the school of Buddhism. If one wanted to establish a foothold in Kyushu and become one of the top forces, it would be impossible to gain a foothold without a backer. And these converted forces were the foundations of the 9 great families outside. Generally, in each province, the 9 great families would have a major supporting force. For example, the Onyx Mountain was the main convert to legalism in Wanzhou, and it was also the foundation of Wanzhou. These matters were secrets to the common people, but to experts who had reached a certain level, they were no longer secrets. At this moment, those stunned figures came from another major force in Wanzhou. They hadn't converted to legalism, but they were converts to the school of vertical and horizontal. The experts from the converted forces of the school of vertical and horizontal in Wanzhou already knew that the Onyx Mountain had been destroyed. However, They had only guessed that the desolate country was dealing with legalism. Although they had been vigilant at this moment, they truly understood that the desolate country wasn't only dealing with legalism, but also the school of vertical and horizontal. They wanted to eradicate all the converted forces of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. In this short period of time, while those figures were still in a daze, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Qiu Li, and the others had already pounced forward. From the information gathered by Li Shui from the World Society, there was information on the experts from the converted forces of the school of vertical and horizontal in each province. Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Qiu Li, and the others wouldn't be mistaken. This was the original plan. If they killed the converted forces of legalism or the school of vertical and horizontal and attracted the attention of the other party, they would first kill the other party's experts before destroying their foundations. Rumble, Yi Piaoling, Qiu Li, Du Yunlong, and the others suddenly burst forth and pounced forward. Not good. The expression of the converted expert from the school of vertical and horizontal changed drastically. His aged face was filled with horror. He wanted to escape, but it was too late. He was immediately stopped, and a fierce battle immediately unfolded. The surrounding Wanzhou experts watched from the sidelines. None of them interfered. They didn't want to provoke the desolate nation. In the divine domain, the demon king and his son were already terrifying enough. Moreover, they had the backing of several other forces. The school of Mo, the school of Yin Yang, and the school of agriculture were allies of the desolate nation. As for the school of Taoism, legalism, and Confucianism, they didn't interfere. At this moment, these Wanzhou experts naturally wouldn't interfere. They couldn't afford to provoke the desolate nation. Rumble, another great battle broke out. Yi Piaoling, the 18 celestial guards, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Qiu Li, and the others were no longer as strong as before. Let's fight. Some of the aged figures weren't weak either. They activated their meridian spirits. Beast shadows roared and ferocious birds soared into the sky. There were Dharma artifacts and Tao artifacts that swept across the sky. Sword radiance filled the sky and sliced through the void. There was a golden bell that was a pinnacle Dharma artifact that spun with resplendent light. It was engraved with talisman runes, and the faint sound of the bell could shake one's soul. It transformed into ripples that sounded like the roar of a demon god. Bang, 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 the mountains collapsed and the messy ground exploded one after another. Kill! Du Tingxian activated his thunder martial vein and enveloped the heavenly dragon shield. The battle saber in his hand sliced through the void, and the killing aura swept across the sky. Kill! Yi Piaoling, Chang Guyu, and the rest of the 18 celestial guards formed an array. Their terrifying aura swept across the area like a demon god descending. Roar! Qiu Li's true form was a horned dragon. It twisted the void and roared endlessly, shaking the heavens and earth. Although these converted experts from the school of vertical and horizontal weren't weak, they couldn't withstand the attacks of Yi Piaoling, Du Yunlong, and Qiu Li. The desolate nation's supreme talents are too terrifying. The experts watching from the void wall were shocked. They widened their eyes and stared at the battlefield in shock. The situation in the other continents was similar. The school of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal had sent experts to investigate. They intercepted the desolate nation's team halfway. In the void of Han continent, a middle-aged expert from the school of vertical and horizontal appeared. He stopped Heavenly Wolf Mo Tianxiao, Stone Turtle King, Black Dragon King, and dozens of others. You're only in the domain realm, right? Fight! Mo Tianxiao sensed the aura of the domain realm expert from the school of vertical and horizontal. He wasn't afraid at all. His eyes were even filled with battle intent as he pounced forward. The middle-aged man was furious. His scorching aura burst out like heavenly fire. He was about to fight Heavenly Wolf Mo Tianxiao. The demon has appeared. Kyushu is in chaos. The great calamity is coming. The 9 cauldrons are not gathered. The 9 families are not out. Can't you remember? However, at this moment, a faint voice sounded. At the same time, a terrifying aura trembled in the sky. It froze the space and imprisoned the school of vertical and horizontal's young expert. Sizzle, a dazzling ray of light fell on his body like a bolt of lightning. It was as if a divine thunder had descended from the heavens. Bang! As the ray of light fell, the body of the School of Vertical and Horizontal's domain realm expert exploded. His divine soul was destroyed. The ground around him cracked and shattered. How terrifying! Sizzle! Heavenly Wolf Mo Tianxiao stopped. He didn't say anything, but his heart trembled violently. That terrifying aura made him feel small and insignificant. He couldn't resist it. In the vast plains of Ning continent, an old man in a long robe appeared in front of Thunder Eagle King, Miameng King, Yun Zhan, Bing Feng, and hundreds of other figures. Chapter 1781. Desolate country's vile creatures, you dare to touch my legalism? Today is the day you die. The long-robed old man was furious. He had chased them all the way here and blocked the Thunderhawk King and Miameng King. His entire body was wrapped in light. It wasn't the power gathered from legalism's magic, but a vigorous origin spirit aura. This long-robed old man of legalism was a spirit talisman master, a 9-star spirit talisman master. He had a mysterious and ancient pressure that came from an ancient sect like legalism. The Thunderhawk King and Miameng King had felt this mysterious and ancient origin spirit pressure from Du Xiaofu before. It seemed to be related to spirit roots. Just a 9-star domain realm, what are you being so arrogant for? The Thunderhawk King sneered. He was fearless. Although he was only at the Nirvana realm, he was a Nirvana realm sovereign. The Thunderhawk King had tempered himself in front of the mysterious light screen in the Death Canyon. Although his results weren't as good as Mo Tianxiao's or Du Xiaofu's, he still gained a lot. After being together with people like Du Xiaofu and Mo Tianxiao who could kill opponents above their level for a long time, the Thunder Eagle King didn't pay much attention to this 9-star talisman master from the legalism school. Moreover, there was still the Miameng King by his side. Vile creature, I'll take you as my mount. Otherwise, I'll kill you today. The 9-star spirit talisman master of legalism was furious. If such a Nirvana Thunderhawk could become his mount, he could spare his life. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't let him go. Kid, you're courting death. The Thunderhawk King replied. Lightning instantly spread out in the space around him as he was about to make a move. The Thunderhawk King had lived for a few thousand years. The 9-star spirit talisman master in front of him might not be older than him. Thunderhawk King, the Rock Emperor said not to be reckless. Act according to the plan. Miameng King spoke and blocked the Thunderhawk King. With a wave of his sleeve, a resplendent silver-gold bolt of lightning immediately shot out. A majestic and vigorous aura of the soul swept out. Amidst the flashing lightning and rumbling thunder, an adult-sized redbone horse monkey appeared. The redbone horse monkey's body was slightly illusory. Innate spirit art master of legalism. Its spirit talisman master of legalism had a spirit root aura. There was an ancient pressure as it emitted a white divine light. BZZ, many Ning provinces experts from Ning province's Nin province were Nin province. Many Ning provinces tranquil province. Many experts from Ning province in the Ning province experts from Ning province Ning province nations Ning province. Nations their Ning Ning's face nap Ning's Nadic origin soul origin soul origin soul. At this moment, the legalism spirit talisman master's face couldn't help but fiercely twitch after his gaze changed. The legalism spirit talisman master had seen Du Xiaofu's origin spirit before. At this moment, he recognized it at the first moment. The redbone horse monkey's figure was definitely Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar. Rock Emperor. Along with the appearance of Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar, the Thunderhawk King, Miameng King, Yun Mu, and the others bowed as they were secretly shocked in their hearts. Before they had come to the Ning Plain, when the Du family had set off, Du Xiaofu had already split off 2 clones of his soul and given them to them and Du Yunlong, just in case the experts of the School of Legalism and the School of Vertical and Horizontal heard the news and hurried over when they cleared out the organizations that had converted. At this moment, When they saw the experts from legalism coming over, the Thunderhawk King, Miameng King, and the others couldn't help but feel shocked. The Rock Emperor's prophecy was indeed godly. He had really attracted the experts from legalism. And this was indeed Du Xiaofu's arrangement. Those converted forces were legalism, the foundation of the school of vertical and horizontal in the outside world. Once they were eliminated, it would be equivalent to digging up their fortune for the school of legalism and vertical and horizontal. With such an important matter, even though the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal had the prohibition of the 9 cauldrons gathering and the 9 families not appearing, they would still send experts to interfere. The Thunderhawk King, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, and the others were enough to sweep through the 8 provinces by themselves. However, if they still had to deal with the experts from the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism, they definitely wouldn't be enough. Therefore, these soul avatars were arranged by Du Xiaofu. However, Du Xiaofu had only separated 2 origin spirit avatars and handed them to the relatively weaker teams of Du Yunlong and Yi Piaoling, as well as the teams of the Thunderhawk King and Miameng King. Du Xiaofu felt that the 2 origin spirit avatars were relatively few. However, back at the Du family, he had already shocked Elder Lei. At their level, although they could use soul avatars, they would usually only use 1 origin spirit avatar. They wouldn't use it unless it was a critical moment. Putting aside the fact that if something happened to the origin spirit avatar, it would be equivalent to burying one's cultivation future and destroying one's foundation. Moreover, there weren't many people who could use 2 origin spirit avatars. If someone knew that after Du Xiaofu used 2 origin spirit avatars, he still felt that he could continue to separate origin spirit avatars, how shocked would they be? Legalism, a 9-star domain realm talisman master. When Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar flew out and sensed the aura of the long-robed elder, he immediately knew the latter's identity. Facing someone from legalism, Du Xiaofu wouldn't be polite at all. To Du Xiaofu, a 9-star domain realm talisman master was something that he dared to directly fight against with his origin spirit avatar. Rumble! In just an instant, the sky was filled with thunder and lightning, and the sea of thunder was already rippling. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar, which had fused with his origin spirit avatar and bloodline avatar, was about to pounce towards the former. It's just a origin spirit avatar. Du Xiaofu, my legalism will definitely not let you off. The long-robed elder said gloomily. If Du Xiaofu's real body came, he would definitely be afraid. However, at this moment, it was only Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. In the depths of his heart, the elder even wanted to take this opportunity to kill or capture Du Xiaofu's origin spirit avatar. Boom! The long-robed elder's aura erupted, causing the void to resonate with the heavens and earth. A 9-star domain realm talisman master was definitely among the super experts in the world. This time, he had come for the conversion forces in the Ning province. This was enough to show how important these conversion forces were to legalism. The evil demon has appeared. Kyushu is in chaos. The great calamity is coming. The 9 cauldrons will not gather, and the 9 families will not come out. Those who violate this will be killed without mercy. Suddenly, a faint voice rang out from the void. At the same time, a terrifying aura suddenly trembled from the sky, solidifying the space. A vast force immediately imprisoned the 9-star domain realm talisman master of legalism. Swish! In the next moment, a dazzling ray of light, like a thunderbolt, fell on the old man in the robe of a 9-star domain spiritual talisman master. It was like a divine thunder falling from the sky. Bang! As the ray of light fell, the body of the long-robed talisman master of legalism directly exploded, and his soul was destroyed. A black hole appeared in the surrounding void. As the energy spread to a certain distance, it suddenly stopped. This is a warning. Warning! Du Xiaofu stopped and looked at the depths of the void. His expression did not change, but his heart trembled fiercely. That terrifying aura made him feel small in his heart. At this moment, what shocked Du Xiaofu the most was that he seemed to feel a pair of eyes looking at him from the depths of the void. However, that feeling soon disappeared. It seems that the current world and the 9 families are not the only ones who are not allowed to take action. The 9 cauldrons will not gather, and the 9 families will not come out. Someone is guarding the oath from ancient times. Looking at the depths of the void, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Rock Emperor, who is it that took action? Thunderhawk King and Miameng King waited for a short moment before recovering from their shock and trembling, and they arrived by Du Xiaofu's side. They were still secretly astounded, as merely the aura of the aftermath of the vast force that descended from the heavens earlier had crushed them to the point they felt tiny in their hearts and were unable to resist it. It could be one of the Eastern deity, Southern scholar, Northern addict, Western demon, and Central deity. It could also be the guardian of an ancient oath. Du Xiaofu lowered his head slightly and felt that the aura in the void had completely disappeared. He looked around. At this moment, almost all the top experts of Ning Prefecture had gathered here, attracted by this astonishing movement. Suddenly, his gaze swept across the experts of Ning Prefecture who were floating in the void. Within Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit avatar, silver-gold arcs of lightning flickered in his eyes. His voice sounded, "Seniors of Ning Prefecture, the desolate nation has no intention of interfering in Ning Prefecture. It is just some personal grudges. I'm sure everyone knows that I'm only here for the converted forces of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. Please excuse me. Du Xiaofu thanks you. As for the converted members of the school of vertical and horizontal, please don't leave." Du Xiaofu's voice resounded through the void. The expressions of the aged figures in the void changed slightly. "Rock Emperor, you're too polite. The Golden Spear sect still has to thank the Rock Emperor for his help in the divine domain," an old man with a smile on his face said. He was the ancestor of the Golden Spear sect of Ning Prefecture. He had learned about Du Xiaofu's help in the divine domain from Bailey Wia. At this moment, he immediately retreated with a few other old figures. "Rock Emperor, please do as you wish." At the same time, many old figures in the void retreated. They were the ancestors of various forces related to the school of Moism, the school of agriculture, the school of Buddhism, and the school of Taoism. Whether it was for public or private reasons, they had absolutely no intention of interfering at this moment. Moreover, the arrival of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit avatar was undoubtedly equivalent to the arrival of Du Xiaofu himself in Ning Prefecture. How could the ancestors of these forces not know what kind of existence they were? Even if they really wanted to stop Du Xiaofu, they would not be able to stop the Demon King Du Xiaofu with their strength. Moreover, once they provoked the Demon King Du Xiaofu, this Demon King dared to even kill the ancestors of the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons. When the time came, they would not even know how they died. As the experts tactfully retreated, there were less than 10 figures left in the void. Their auras were powerful, and they were filled with light, like the stars and the moon hanging in the distance. They were the forces that had converted to the school of vertical and horizontal. At this moment, their faces began to twitch ferociously, and their deep eyes surged with shock. Chapter 1782. Kill. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit avatar took the lead and attacked. The World Society had collected information on the top experts related to the school of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal in Ningzhou. Now that these people had been alerted, they had to kill them all. Otherwise, if they escaped, there would be trouble in the future. Thunder Eagle King, Miameng King, Yun Zhan, Bing Feng, and other terrifying existences also charged out. Rumble. A shocking battle immediately began. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and beast roars like thunder filled the sky. The demons have appeared. Kyushu is in chaos. A great calamity is coming. The 9 cauldrons will not gather. The 9 families will not appear. Those who violate this rule will be killed without mercy. At that moment, the Lan Prefecture, Yu Prefecture, Lei Prefecture, and other places all issued such warnings one after another. A frightening aura trembled in the heavens as a lightning-like energy pillar descended and killed several elderly figures. After which, it came to an abrupt stop. Gulp gulp, the experts of the various states gasped in shock. These people from the school of vertical and horizontal can't appear. In Lanzhou, Du Xiaoyao's golden robes glowed. His eyes shone with golden light. Beside him, the phantom, blood-vine demon, and the others clicked their tongues. Boring. I thought a stronger opponent would come. In Yuzhou, little Xingxing raised his head slightly and looked at the sky. Then he scanned the surroundings and said, "Idlers, disperse. I will only deal with the converts of the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism." As soon as little Xingxing finished speaking, the divine ape king, fire dragon king, silver blood leopard king, wind cloud eagle king, three-headed lion king, lightning wolf king, and other experts roared and attacked. In Yunzhou, Jiangchen was surrounded by a faint murderous aura. He looked into the depths of the sky. He felt a pair of eyes watching him from afar. After a long time, the eyes disappeared. Idlers retreat. Converts of the school of legalism die. Then he looked at the old figures gathered in the sky. Behind him, the countless figures wailed like ghosts and gods. In the sky above Shangzhou, a lightning ox that was over 10 m in size was covered in dazzling arcs of lightning, and its body was covered in thick azure-colored scales that seemed like scales. Moreover, it rippled with arcs of lightning while thunderclouds arose from its hooves, and its horns shot into the sky while glistening brilliantly. Moreover, its eyes seemed to contain 2 pools of lightning and were suffused with a vast aura. Kill! The thunderbolt soared through the sky with a vast might, and dense lightning talismans and markings charged out to transform into tangible arcs of lightning that enveloped down towards his opponent like an enormous net. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and it shook the heart and soul. Boom! The old man who was enveloped by the lightning net was bursting with blazing heavenly fire. He formed a series of hand seals and used all of his strength to activate his saint artifact. He wanted to shake off the lightning net. However, the terrifying net of lightning was resplendent and possessed a vast power. It could even imprison a saint weapon, distorting and sealing the void. The arcs of lightning completely enveloped the former. Amidst the flashes of lightning and the rumbling of thunder, the arcs of lightning that blotted out the sky and covered the earth seemed to descend in countless strands. Lightning runes flickered and turned into a phenomenon that carried with it a destructive force. Whoosh, whoosh. Lightning surged wildly and endlessly, drowning the void and also the former. Amidst the deafening thunder and lightning runes, the former was completely suppressed and killed. How terrifying! In the surrounding void, many old figures stared at the thunderbolt. That terrifying aura made their hair stand on end. An expert who was almost at the peak of the domain realm from the school of vertical and horizontal had been killed just like that. And that thunderbolt was only an essence soul avatar. That must be the legendary mount of the Jinlei Tensei. It's an ancient thunderbolt. After being stupefied for a while, an aged figure whispered in shock. That kind of power was too terrifying. After killing an expert from the school of vertical and horizontal, the figure of the ancient thunderbolt was slightly illusory. Suddenly, it looked up into the depths of the void. The ancient thunderbolt's essence soul avatar felt a vast fluctuation in the depths of the sky, as if it was spying on him. However, that fluctuation disappeared in a flash, and he could no longer feel it. I'm only killing the believers of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. It has nothing to do with idle people. Then, the ancient thunderbolt's essence soul avatar swept across the void with its lightning eyes. Rumble. As soon as the ancient thunderbolt's essence soul avatar finished speaking, 8 lightning figures suddenly appeared. In an instant, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the void. It was as if heavenly lightning was about to destroy the world, and it directly locked onto many old figures. Kill! The 8 lightning figures let out a battle cry. Their eyes were emotionless, and there was only killing intent. Accompanied by thunderous explosions, it shook the surroundings. Immediately, lightning rumbled, the ground cracked, and the mountains collapsed. Bang, bang, bang. Immediately, some people were instantly destroyed by the lightning. Not even a mist of blood could be seen. Oh my God! Someone quickly retreated and gasped. Their souls were trembling. The demons have appeared, and Kyushu is in chaos. The great calamity is about to befall the world. If the 9 cauldrons do not gather and the 9 families do not appear, those who disobey will be killed without mercy. A faint voice resounded in the void, echoing in the void above the 9 families. The space seal of the 9 families isolated the space, but it could not isolate the voice. The voice sounded calm, but it was filled with killing intent. Crack. Legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal had their ancient lands, jade slips shattered, and primordial spirit imprints turned into nothingness. Quick, summon the experts of the other families, summon them immediately. If the 9 cauldrons do not gather, the 9 families cannot appear. At this moment, Du Xiaofu is digging my meridians and destroying my foundation. How hateful! Has our fortune truly come to an end? At this moment, legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal were in chaos. Sorrowful cries could be heard everywhere. Some old people were crying, some had red eyes, and their chests were heaving. After a series of heavy losses, the experts that were sent out to scout for information were also killed and lost outside. These experts all had primordial spirit imprints left behind. Once they encountered a calamity, they would immediately know. At this moment, quite a few experts had already been killed. The school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal could no longer bear such losses. They had to immediately recall the experts they had sent. What kind of prohibition is this? Why are we not allowed to come out? How hateful! This is going to destroy my orthodoxy. The heavenly Tao is so unfair. Legalism. Elders from the school of vertical and horizontal raised their heads and cried out in grief. They complained that the heavens were unfair and had been suppressing them all this time to help Du Xiaofu. They hated Du Xiaofu for digging out their meridians and wanted to destroy their orthodoxy. They were also in pain. They were in pain over the loss of their clan's experts. That's not a ban, it's an ancient oath. During the great calamity of the world, the master of the divine lightning cauldron and the dragon god descended and suppressed the ancestors of the 9 great clans by themselves, forcing them to make such an oath. If the 9 cauldrons do not gather, the 9 clans will not come out. If the 9 cauldrons gather, the 9 clans will not come out. An old man opened his mouth, uttering the oath that had been buried in his heart. Even in the 9 great clans, not many people knew about this oath. But for the experts of the 9 great clans, this ancient oath was passed down from generation to generation. Could it be that the master of the divine lightning cauldron and the dragon gods still exist in this world? Legalism. Someone who didn't quite understand asked with a puzzled expression. The master of the divine lightning cauldron and the dragon god. Rumor has it that the divine lightning cauldron used to suppress the evil spirits disappeared completely after Kyushu. From ancient times until now, they haven't appeared again. But rumor has it that there are 5 people in this world who have existed since ancient times. They are called East Deity, South Scholar, West Demon, North Addict, and Middle Deity. They may have been passed down from generation to generation, or they may have always existed. They are the guardians of that ancient oath. Legalism. A middle-aged man in his 40s spoke. He looked very ordinary, but his inexplicable aura and momentum were enough to make people feel reverence and respect. This middle-aged man was the old High Lord of legalism. As a High Lord of the previous generation, he knew a lot of secrets. At this moment, the old High Lord's face was very gloomy and unsightly. Apart from Zhongzhou, the other 8 prefectures in Kyushu were in a state of turmoil. In just a few days, a total of 64 forces in the 8 prefectures had been swept away. When this news spread, it shook the world. In the 8 prefectures, many places were covered with corpses and rivers of blood. The evil spirits lingered for a long time, causing people to feel a chill. This is the desolate country's revenge. In the divine domain, legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal have besieged the Demon King Du Xiaofu time and time again. Now that the Demon King Du Xiaofu has come out, the first thing he did was to attack the forces that converted to legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. Legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal sent out experts, but they were all killed by the heavens. Rumor has it that the Demon King secretly sent out his primordial spirit avatar to attack the school of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. Even the body of the patriarch of legalism, Qin Tianshi, was destroyed. Only his primordial spirit escaped. There are many secrets in this world related to the ancient times. We can't talk too much, lest we attract a calamity. Kyushu was surging like a storm. Discussions broke out everywhere, causing an uproar. The Demon King Du Xiaofu had divided his troops into 8 prefectures and swept through all 4 directions. It was truly terrifying. Only then did the world truly realize that the unknown desolate nation had grown to such a frightening extent in such a short period of time. Uncle Master Du is too powerful. The desolate country swept through the 8 prefectures, sweeping everything before them. Within the ancient heaven sect, 100,000 personal disciples received the news and were in an uproar. The desolate country treated the disciples of the ancient heaven sect as if they were their own family. The desolate country's rock emperor was from the ancient heaven sect and was their Uncle Master Du. The world is changing, it's going to change greatly. Above the 9 states, there were old men and powerful cultivators who had hidden themselves from the world, quietly gathered together and sighed. This kid is too ruthless. He's really bold. Legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal have been completely defeated this time. Even their meridians have been dug out. Sigh, that kid is too terrifying. Among the school of agriculture, school of Moism, school of Yin-Yang, school of Taoism, school of Confucianism and other big families, there were Old Man Di Pai, Old Monster Xing Hun, Icy Ink, and other experts who were also shocked. They had received the news of such a major event at the fastest speed. They were astonished and exceeded their expectations. Chapter 1783. Kyushu was shocked by the desolate country's actions this time. The desolate country had dispatched troops to 8 prefectures at the same time, sweeping through 60 major factions, and even facing the experts sent out by the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. How terrifying and powerful was the desolate country now? In the past, when everyone was shocked by Du Xiaofu, they were even more shocked by Du Xiaofu's Demon King. But now, everyone realized that apart from Du Xiaofu himself, the desolate country that he had single-handedly created was already so powerful. The desolate country had swept through 8 prefectures in half. This kind of strength was no longer comparable to the top factions in Kyushu. They were no longer on the same level, and the difference was too great. All the factions in Kyushu knew that the desolate country had completely risen and could suppress Kyushu. In short, the desolate country's attack this time had swept through 8 prefectures, massacred 64 mountain sects, and uprooted the school of vertical and horizontal and legalism's converts. It had shaken everyone. The desolate country's thousands of experts had split into 8 groups to pursue the converted experts of the school of legalism. It had caused everyone to tremble. In just a few days, 64 factions in 8 prefectures had been massacred, and 64 mountain sects had been razed to the ground. Kyushu could not remain calm. At this time, Du Xiaofu's main body was in seclusion in the ancient heaven sect. Rumble. In the desolate ancient space, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A 3-legged cauldron spun, and purple-gold electric arcs overflowed. They turned into 36 purple-gold electric pillars the size of babies, imprisoning the 36 true rock feathers. The electric arcs overflowed, and the aura of destruction was vast. At this moment, one could faintly see that the 36 true rock feathers that had erupted with a dazzling dark golden light had been purged. Within the purple-gold electric arcs of destruction, there was also a faint demonic aura that was being removed. Quite some time had passed. A few days in the outside world were equivalent to dozens of days in the desolate ancient space. Du Xiaofu used the purple lightning profound cauldron to remove the nascent soul imprint that Jialo Jueju had left on the true Pang's feather. At the same time, the feathers of the true rock were different from before. Du Xiaofu guessed that it should be the influence of the demon bone in Jialo Jumi's body, which caused the feathers of the true rock to be stained with demon qi. If he didn't get rid of this demonic qi, he would definitely suffer a backlash if he tried to fuse with the 36 true Peng feathers. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to remove the demonic energy within the bones of the Jialo extinction longling. In the end, Du Xiaofu could only use the purple gold profound bomb. Using the purple lightning profound cauldron to suppress it, and then using the purple gold profound lightning to remove the demonic qi on the true Peng's feather, things went very smoothly. However, the time it took to remove the demonic qi was much longer than Du Xiaofu had expected. Fortunately, the demonic qi was slowly being removed. Time slowly passed. Du Xiaofu's mind was locked on the 36 true Peng feathers. He had been observing the slightest changes on them. Qi La. When the last wisp of demonic qi was removed by the purple gold profound bomb, the last trace of Jialo Jueju's soul imprint was also removed. The purple gold profound bomb retracted and the purple lightning profound cauldron shrank. There was no longer any black on the 36 true Peng feathers. The golden light gradually became more and more dazzling, more and more resplendent. Gradually, the feathers turned into a sun. Puchi. At this moment, in an ancient palace, in a secret room, electric arcs fluctuated and demonic qi rippled. A black-haired, black-robed youth sat cross-legged. This young man was very handsome. His eyebrows were long like willows, and his face had a natural noble temperament. Puchi. Suddenly, the black-haired, black-robed youth spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned pale. Boom! Boom! In the ancient space, the 36 true Peng feathers gathered and shone brightly. It was as if 36 golden suns were rising in the void. It gave off an incomparably domineering and supreme feeling, bringing with it a pressure that caused the void to tremble. The 36 feathers of the true Peng possessed such a terrifying supreme pressure, as if they could even crush the space of the desolate ancient space. Du Xiaofu stood up and looked at the 36 true Peng feathers in shock. At this moment, the 36 true Peng feathers were suspended in the void, causing the golden-winged Peng blood in Du Xiaofu's body to boil like boiling water. Du Xiaofu's chest was hot, and his eyes quietly glowed with a golden light. There was an unstoppable connection with his blood. Walala, at the same time, the light behind Du Xiaofu's back exploded. The golden light surged as if it was out of control. The clothes on his back were torn, and a bright golden blood spurted out. Finally, in the overbearing aura, it turned into a pair of golden-winged Peng wings. Those were the real Peng's golden wings. When the Peng's golden wings spread, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the void. Its aura was monstrous, and golden light shone. When the wings spread, it was as if a true Peng had been born. At this moment, Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Looking at the 36 true Peng feathers in front of him, he felt as if he had turned into a real golden-winged Peng that wanted to soar into the sky and cross the vault of heaven. Gee! At this moment, as if affected by the Peng's golden wings on Du Xiaofu's body, the 36 true Peng feathers gathered. On the 36 feathers that were as dazzling as the sun, an illusory golden-winged Peng appeared. There was a screech that pierced through the clouds and cracked stone. Runes circulated, and an overbearing aura erupted. Gee! The illusory golden-winged Peng formed by the 36 true Peng feathers flapped its wings and soared into the sky. It was as if it could shoot down the stars. The golden light shone brightly, and with an unparalleled momentum, it wanted to crush the void. At this moment, the blood in Du Xiaofu's chest and body seemed to be burning. His blood boiled to the extreme, as if it was about to spurt out. Gee! In the blink of an eye, the eyes of the illusory golden-winged Peng formed by the 36 true Peng feathers had two golden lightning-like eyes. They were like golden lightning beams that directly fell into Du Xiaofu's golden eyes. The golden light was dazzling and filled the eyes. Du Xiaofu immediately closed his eyes tightly, and his consciousness gradually blurred. When Du Xiaofu regained consciousness, he felt that he had appeared in a vast space. In this space, there was a golden light spreading, and there were countless runes that were faintly discernible. The golden light was dazzling, as if countless golden lightning bolts were flashing. In the end, they lined up in the sky above the vast space and converged into the illusory golden-winged Peng that floated in the void. The domineering and fierce aura made Du Xiaofu's mind want to crawl. The illusory golden-winged Peng hovered in the air as if it was looking down on the world. It flapped its wings and covered the sky, suppressing all life on the earth. These are the runes of the golden-winged Peng contained within the 36 true Peng feathers. It's the supreme beast energy. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The densely packed golden runes and the illusory golden-winged Peng were the runes of the real golden-winged Peng. It was the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged Peng clan. Du Xiaofu was no stranger to the beast energy of the golden-winged Peng clan. The changes and evolutions of the runes were related to him and had a connection that came from his bloodline and soul. It was endless and continuous. This was also not the first time Du Xiaofu had comprehended the beast energy of the golden-winged Peng. These were the runes of the golden-winged Peng contained within the 36 true Peng feathers. Although Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the beast energy of the golden-winged Peng clan was not weak, the beast energy of the golden-winged Peng clan contained within the feathers of the true Peng clan was extraordinary. This was a rare opportunity, and Du Xiaofu would not miss it. His mind was immediately immersed in the comprehension, and he felt the evolution and derivation of the golden runes. Chapter 1784. Legalism. There was a clear difference between his comprehension of the great golden-winged Peng clan's beast energy and Du Xiaofu's comprehension of the great golden-winged Peng clan's beast energy and even the comprehension of the great Peng secret realm. It was similar to the comprehension he had when he obtained the great Peng secret bone in the savage beast mountain range. This kind of understanding came from the bloodline. The feathers of the true rock were left behind by the top experts of the great rock clan. A true rock feather was already a great treasure. Since ancient times, the golden-winged great rocks had only collected 9 of them. They were refined by Jialo Jueyu, but in the end, they were taken by Jialo Jueyu. It was said that the senior of the golden-winged great rocks had left behind a total of 72 true rock's feathers. Every feather of the true rock was a precious treasure. It was said that if one gathered 72 true rock feathers, they could even obtain a wisp of divine will. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had obtained 36 feathers. Although he did not obtain any sacred will, he had obtained the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged great rocks. This supreme beast could be very powerful. Just how powerful was the owner of the true rock's feather back then? In terms of his own comprehension, he had already reached perfection. The true rock's feather was the last thing he left behind. It contained all of his comprehension and could be passed down to the younger generation to comprehend. Du Xiaofu was immersed in his comprehension. He transformed into a true Peng and soared 90,000 li into the sky, shaking the world. This was a tremendous opportunity. The desolate ancient space was filled with golden light, as if the sun was shining brightly in the sky. Du Xiaofu's figure floated in the air. The golden light came from the golden rock wings on his back. Strictly speaking, the dazzling golden light emanating from the 36 true Peng feathers on his back came from the 36 true Peng feathers. The 36 true Peng feathers that originally came from Jialo Jueyu landed on the golden rock wings on Du Xiaofu's back. Each of the 18 true Peng feathers glowed, causing Du Xiaofu's aura to become even more domineering. As he spread his wings, the golden talisman runes on his back transformed into a complete golden-winged great Peng. It was as if it could suppress the ancient times and heavens and earth. Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in the comprehension of this tyrannical golden rock. He had entered a state of comprehension, intoxicated. In the misty, desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly closed, and his body was covered in dense golden runes. A few more days later, the restrictions around the courtyard loosened and disappeared. Du Xiaofu walked out of the courtyard. His purple robes fluttered slightly, and his black hair danced behind him. His eyes were clear as he stared at the void. There was an invisible chi field around him that could cause the void to change as soon as he appeared. Bush. The invisible chi field rippled, causing several familiar and obscure auras to ripple over from the ancient heaven sect. Those with insufficient cultivation would not be able to sense them at all. Greetings, senior brother. A moment later, Du Xiaofu met his senior brother, Sima Taking, in a simple and quiet building in the ancient heaven sect. Sima Taking looked at Du Xiaofu and felt the invisible qi field from Du Xiaofu's body. A ripple of thought flashed through his deep, glass-like eyes. He said, "In the past 10 days, Kyushu has become jittery and paranoid. Legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal sent out experts, but in the end, the ancient oath protectors seemed to have intervened. I'm sure you already know that the legalism school of vertical and horizontal has suffered another heavy blow this time. Senior brother, what kind of existence is the ancient oath protectors?" With the Yuan spirit doppelganger outside, the Yuan spirit doppelganger and Yuan spirit could sense each other no matter how far apart they were. Naturally, Du Xiaofu already knew what was going on outside. When someone intervened, Du Xiaofu had already guessed that it might be the ancient oath protectors, or one of the experts from the Eastern Deity, Southern Ru, Northern Addict, Western Goblin, and Middle Divine Realm. As far as I know, they are related to the ancient times. Rumor has it that during the Great Calamity, the master of the Divine Thunder Cauldron and the Dragon God used the Divine Thunder Cauldron to suppress the evil in Kyushu. Then, with their own strength, they suppressed the ancestors of the 9 great clans and made the 9 great clans take such an oath. If the 9 cauldrons don't gather, the 9 great clans won't come out. If the 9 cauldrons gather, they will command the 9 great clans. Sima Taking said, after that, the master of the Divine Thunder Cauldron and the Dragon God never appeared again. However, it is said that 5 people have always existed since ancient times. No one even knows whether they are men or women. They only know that they are called the Eastern Deity, Southern Ru, Western Goblin, Northern Addict, and Middle Divine Realm. Their identities may have been passed down from generation to generation, or they may have always existed. However, the 5 of them are the ancient oath protectors. From ancient times until now, the real reason why the 9 great clans haven't come out is because of the existence of those 5 people. As his voice fell, Sima Taking's face was slightly shocked. He had only recently learned this news from the Mo clan. This time, Du Xiaofu had made the 8 states jittery, so the Mo clan had immediately sent people to the ancient heaven sect to inquire about the situation. So the Eastern Deity, Southern Ru, and the other 4 are the ancient oath protectors. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the one who had punished the legalism and the experts from the school of vertical and horizontal was also one of the 5. What do you plan to do next? The desolate country had sent troops to the 8 states and massacred 64 forces. Du Xiaofu's main body was in seclusion in the ancient heaven sect. It was not difficult for Sima Taking to guess that Du Xiaofu's plan to gather the legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal was not so simple. If the 9 cauldrons don't gather, the 9 great clans won't come out. This ancient oath is quite good. A sliver of a smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's resolute face. He said, I plan on paying a visit to the school of legalism. You want to go to the legalism? Sima Taking's expression immediately changed when he heard that. He sternly reminded Du Xiaofu, if the 9 cauldrons don't gather, the 9 great clans won't come out. However, if you go to the legalism, it will be different. Although the Saint Realm experts of the legalism have been severely injured, they are still Saint Realm experts. Moreover, as far as I know, the foundations of the 9 great clans are even greater than what we've seen so far. With the desolate country's current strength, it's probably not enough to go to the legalism. Sima Taking paused and looked at Du Xiaofu. His tone softened a little as he said, I know your mother is still in the legalism, but there are some things that need to be endured. If it weren't for the restrictions of the ancient oath, the legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal would probably have done more than just remain dormant. Although you still have the golden-winged Pring clan behind you, the school of Moism, the school of agriculture, and the school of Yin Yang also intend to help you. If you really want to fight, both sides will suffer in the end. This might not be the result you want. Du Xiaofu remained silent for a while. His eyes were calm and heavy. After a while, he nodded at Sima Taking and said, I understand, but there are some things that I have decided to do. I also have other arrangements. Legalism has already been severely injured. You've already dug out all its channels. Its decline is only a matter of time. On the other hand, the desolate country's fate is rising like the sun. Sooner or later, it will be able to suppress legalism. It's only a matter of time. Sima Taking said to Du Xiaofu. Indeed. Du Xiaofu smiled and took a deep breath. With a wry smile, he looked outside the palace at the golden afterglow of the setting sun and said softly, "But my alcoholic father's woman is still in legalism. My mother must be thinking of me. My alcoholic father said that as a husband and a father, I have to do something. As a son, I also have to do something." Sigh. Sima Taxing Star looked at the tall and straight figure in front of him. He looked at the determined face and wanted to say something, but in the end he hesitated. He then sighed softly and said, "It's a pity that the sect is too weak to help you. The ancient heaven sect is my sect, and it will be in the future." Du Xiaofu turned around and said to Sima Taking. Du Xiaofu was very grateful to the ancient heaven sect. This was his second home. Sima Taking looked at Du Xiaofu and suddenly asked, "Then I'm your senior brother now. What about in the future?" Du Xiaofu was stunned and immediately reacted. His face was slightly embarrassed. How could Du Xiaofu not understand the meaning of his senior brother Sima Taking's words? The matters of you young people are a bit complicated. As a father, although I hope that you can treat Muhan wholeheartedly, I am not an unenlightened person. I have always known Muhan's feelings for you. This is her choice. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Sima Taking became serious again and said, "But today, as a father, I ask you, are you sincere to Muhan?" Chapter 1785. Legalism. Du Xiaofu's gaze wavered. How could Du Xiaofu not know of Sima Muhan's feelings for him? Although Du Xiaofu hadn't thought much about it in the past, his family had been separated when he was young, and his master had fallen into the hands of the devil religion. This made Du Xiaofu not have the time to think about love, nor did he have the heart to think about it. From Dongli Qingqing and Su Muxin, and later Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaofu had never had any extra thoughts in the beginning, but later on, under the influence of gods and demons, they had walked together. In Du Xiaofu's heart, he had always felt deeply indebted to these three women. He had always been on the path of cultivation, and didn't even have the time to accompany them. However, he still needed to continue on the path of cultivation in order to be able to protect everything around him. His family hadn't been reunited, and his master was still in the hands of the devil religion. At this moment, he couldn't stay because of love. Sima Taking Xing looked at Du Xiaofu's expression and frowned slightly. He said softly, "You don't have any feelings for Muhan?" Du Xiaofu shook his head. It was possible to say that he didn't have any feelings at the beginning, but if Sima Muhan hadn't begged for the grass of immortality, he would have already died. The second time he was trapped in legalism, Sima Muhan had begged the Mo family's ancestor Ice Ink to go to legalism. Du Xiaofu remembered this kindness in his heart. He has a heart. I also want to devote my whole life to him, but I owe him too much. When my family is reunited and my master escapes from the clutches of the devil, I will definitely not let him down. It's just that now is not the time." Du Xiaofu said with a serious expression. "Your words are enough. I also believe that you know what to do." Sima Taking Xing was slightly surprised, and then a smile appeared on his face. He said, "That girl Muhan has been spoiled by me and her grandmother since she was young. She doesn't have the maturity and balance of Su Muxin, the independence of Ouyang Dongli Qingqing, and the ability of Ouyang Shuang. She is also a bit stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat. However, she is also very sincere and pure. You have to treat her well." As his voice fell, Sima Taking Xing Yabo Xing Shui Yi. Du Xiaofu nodded and smiled. After a while, he asked Taking Xing Shui Ying, and then asked Sima Taking Xing Shui, and the people's is Shui Shui. "I just received news not long ago that there's movement in the wormhole. They're probably coming back soon." "They are probably coming back," Sima Taking Xing Shui said. Those terrifying people of the desolate country had divided into 8 groups and headed straight for the 8 provinces, causing Kyushu to surge. Now, those guys were coming back. Sima Taking Xing hesitated for a moment and said, "At this time, if you enter the 8 provinces, it will be the best opportunity. It will be justified and can also intimidate all parties. If you want to do it again in the future, you may not have such an opportunity. With the desolate country's current strength, they had swept away 64 forces in the 8 provinces. However, they did not want to stay or enter the 8 provinces. This made Sima taking Xing somewhat puzzled. All the major forces in Kyushu wanted to enter the Kyushu, but no one had the power to do so. But now, the desolate country had such strength and an excellent opportunity. With Du Xiaofu's troublesome character, he did not want to touch the 8 provinces. This made Sima taking Xing Shui feel strange. Hearing Sima taking Xing's words, Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Then, he frowned and said, "If the great calamity of heaven and earth is really coming, what's the use of entering the 8 provinces? If no one can stop it, it will become a demon's domain everywhere." This, Sima taking Xing was stunned. Then he looked at Du Xiaofu. Ripples appeared in his glass-like eyes. The ripples in his heart were even more intense. He had already felt that the man in front of him was no longer the same as before. Whoosh, whoosh, in the depths of the ancient heaven sect, a wormhole opened. From the void with the fluctuations of time, many figures swept out one after another. They were filled with a bloody aura and an invisible aura that distorted the void. These guys are worthy of being brought out by that kid. Each and every one of them is ferocious and fierce. Seeing the figures sweeping out of the wormhole, several elders of the ancient heaven sect in the surroundings were secretly shocked. These guys, who made Kyushu jittery at the slightest sound, had left the 8 provinces after massacring 64 forces and returned to the central provinces. The center of the sky plane was the gateway of legalism to the outside world. However, too many things had happened recently. It had been invaded one after another, and it had also been massacred by the old lady of the golden-winged rock clan, Garuda Mola. It had become one of the greatest disgraces in the history of legalism. However, the legalism seemed to be afraid of something. In the end, it resisted the old lady, Garuda Mola. Whoosh, whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the sky plane. There was an old man beside him. It was Elder Lei, who had followed him all the way from the ancient heaven sect. Legalism actually has a very deep foundation. When the old master was alive, although he was able to make the great ancestors of the 9 great families fear him, I once heard the old master say that the 9 great families are not simple. They have a very deep foundation, Elder Lei said to Du Xiaofu. As long as the 9 cauldrons are not gathered, the 9 great families will not come out. This ancient oath is true. Moreover, now that the Saint Plane can't make a move, no matter how deep the foundation is, I'm afraid there won't be many people who can make a move. Du Xiaofu said. Even Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi didn't have much combat power left. Qin Tianshi's physical body had been destroyed, and he was in a worse state than Li Chunfa. However, Du Xiaofu learned from his own primordial spirit clone that although Qin Tianshi was only left with his primordial spirit, he was very cunning. In the end, he still let his primordial spirit escape. After a while, his figure streaked across the void, as if he was tearing through space. Du Xiaofu came to a familiar plain. There were ruins of broken walls in the distance. It used to be a big city of legalism, but now only ruins were left. Pest. As Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, a golden stream of light swept through the sky, turning into a bright silver-gold electric arc, and directly rushed into the space between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. Du Xiaofu closed his eyes. That was a primordial spirit clone that chased Qin Tianshi's primordial spirit to the sky plains. In the end, it stayed on the sky plains. At this moment, as Du Xiaofu's main body came, the primordial spirit clone returned. Whoosh! A second silver-gold electric arc descended from the void, and the figure of a red-bone horse monkey could be faintly seen. From behind, it also rushed into the space between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. This was also Du Xiaofu's second primordial spirit clone. It didn't stay with the Thunder Eagle King, but crossed space alone, all the way to the sky plains. At this moment, it also returned to Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, and merged with the primordial spirit main body. In Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, on the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian that was fluctuating with electric arcs, the primordial spirit and meridian spirit fused into the body of the red-bone horse monkey that was shining brightly. Chi. When Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, an electric arc flashed across his eyes. The return of the two primordial spirit clones made Du Xiaofu feel an incomparably fulfilling and complete feeling. With the primordial spirit clone outside, he always felt that it was incomplete. This feeling also more or less made Du Xiaofu understand why losing a primordial spirit clone would damage one's foundation. An incomplete primordial spirit would destroy one's foundation. In terms of cultivation, it would be difficult to make much progress in the future. As Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, a bolt of lightning also rushed into the space between Old Lei's eyebrows. That was one of Old Lei's beast spirit clones, and it had also returned at this moment. Soon after, a tall figure rushed over. His black hair swayed slightly, his robes fluttered, and his figure was tall and straight. It was Du Tingxian. Behind him, there were 8 lightning figures following. They were 8 puppets that didn't return to the central region. Instead, they crossed space and appeared on the sky plains. Greetings, new master. Old Lei bowed towards Du Tingxian after opening his eyes. Sorry for troubling you, Old Lei. Du Tingxian said. Then he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I've just arrived. The entrance to legalism is up ahead. I know. Du Xiaofu nodded. He stared ahead for a while and said, Legalism, I'm here again. Du Xiaofu immediately felt a chill in his heart towards legalism. His grievances with legalism ran deep. Legalism had once humiliated and bullied Du Xiaofu without regard for their blood ties. Du Xiaofu had once been treated like an ant here. He had been humiliated, lied to, and bullied. He had even almost died at the hands of legalism several times. Legalism had always hated him for not being dead. All the misery and humiliation that Du Xiaofu had suffered in the past few years could not compare to what he had suffered in legalism. However, legalism just happened to be his mother's clan, yet they treated him like this. However, Du Xiaofu's visit to legalism this time felt completely different from the previous 2 times. Chapter 1786. In front of them, there were only broken ruins. The former prosperity of Sky City had disappeared. However, not everyone dared to come here. Even though legalism had suffered several defeats recently and suffered heavy losses, causing its reputation to plummet, no one dared to set foot in this place. But now, Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian were here. Whoosh whoosh, there were also 8 puppets and Elder Lei. A total of 10 figures appeared in the ruins. This time, Du Xiaofu did not bring anyone else from the desolate country or the Du family. Just as Sima Taxing said, Du Xiaofu did not know how strong legalism was. He was afraid that it was more than what he had seen. The desolate country was no longer what it used to be, but compared to legalism, it was still lacking. Du Xiaofu was not reckless, but he had to come. As long as there was a chance, Du Xiaofu did not want to miss it. If he kept waiting, how long would he have to wait? Now, Du Xiaofu came in person. He had mixed feelings. Although he knew that legalism still had a strong foundation, at least he had some confidence now. He was no longer the same as before. Can't you see that the front is forbidden? Trespassers will die. With a thunderous roar, several huge demonic beasts appeared in the void. They were ferocious and ferocious. Their eyes were like the sun, and the aura of the Beast Emperor realm was enough to make ordinary people tremble. Although Sky City was no longer there and had been razed to the ground, legalism had been in constant trouble. In a short period of time, there was no way to build another Sky City. Therefore, there were demonic beasts guarding this place. Roar, several ferocious demonic beasts with ruthless eyes and ferocious auras surged. Runes burst out, and as soon as they appeared, they pounced on Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and Elder Lei. Bang 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 bang. A couple of puppets rushed out as lightning surged. In a split second, a couple of huge ferocious beasts were directly destroyed, unable to withstand even a single blow. This is a huge formation that forms a boundary that seals the mountains, rivers, and earth. This was once the ancestral land of legalism, and there are many formations protecting it. If you really want to break in, even if you don't encounter people from legalism, those formations will make ordinary people shrink back. Du Tingxian opened his mouth. He had collected a lot of information and inquired about a lot of information. Legalism was definitely not easy to deal with. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. He knew what was going on. Back then, the old lady had forced her way into legalism. Although she had swept through the periphery, she had stopped outside the core. At that time, the old lady had swept through legalism, but she had left safely. Du Xiaofu guessed that it was related to the Golden-Winged Rock clan and his cheap grandfather. If it had been anyone else, they might not have been able to walk out of the school of legalism the last time. Perhaps there were some secrets behind it. In short, if it had been someone else, the outcome would have been very different in the school of legalism. I'm not afraid of formations. I just need to spend some time. However, I'm afraid that legalism is not easy to enter, and we can't enter. Du Xiaofu's brows twitched slightly as he spoke. He had the talent of the red-bone horse ape, Du Xiaoyao, to rely on the matrix of the school of legalism. However, once he entered the school of legalism, the ban of Saint Plain cultivators not being able to fight would no longer be effective. If we can't enter, then let them come out. Du Tingxian looked at the void and said, he already knew about the Sage Realm's prohibition. Once he entered legalism, the prohibition would not be effective. The Sage Realm experts were not something that the father and son could touch head-on. If it were not for the prohibition, he would not have chosen to enter legalism now. Busy. As Du Tingxuan's voice fell, electric arcs flowed from his body. Lightning runes also appeared from the void. Wind and clouds gathered and finally converged into a purple thunderbolt that was more than as thick as an arm. It swept straight into the void. Rumble. Suddenly, the sound of thunder resounded. The thunderbolt exploded in the void, revealing a large area of the void. A large amount of electric arcs spread out from the void. Du Xiaofu and Elder Lei's eyes were fixed on the void. Their expressions were calm, but they were very serious. Chi. A moment later, a wormhole appeared in the void filled with electric arcs. Dozens of figures flew out from the wormhole. Trespassing into legalism. Do you want to die? In front of the dozens of figures, an old man shouted angrily. A fierce aura swept out. The dozens of figures were covered in the radiance of runes. It was like a bright moon in the sky. It was very powerful. In the eyes of the world, this terrifying aura and radiance was a miracle. It was a legend. It was vast and unparalleled. You are the ones who will die. Du Xiaofu only said such a sentence. He did not even look at the old man. These were just small fries in legalism. He shook his arm and waved it. The sky-shaking wings flapped out. Golden runes erupted and swept across the void. Bang, bang, bang. Under the terrifying force that distorted the void was directly smashed. The dozens of disciples of legalism did not even have the chance to scream. The void exploded, and the dozens of figures were also destroyed. Du Xiaofu did not show any mercy and killed them directly. He no longer had any feelings for legalism. There was no need to show mercy. Legalism, the father and son of the Du family are here. Du Tingxian stepped into the air and shouted through the wormhole. Legalism. The ancient and vast space was magnificent. Mountain ranges rose and fell, and boundless clouds rose. The spiritual qi here was abundant. It was auspicious and majestic. It was incomparably sacred. However, recently, all the organizations that had converted had been massacred by Du Xiaofu. Some of the experts of the school of legalism had ventured out, but they had all died. The entire school of legalism had fallen silent. Ordinary disciples of legalism had more or less heard some rumors and learned about the situation in the outside world. They secretly said that legalism's luck had run out. This situation was even worse for legalism experts. The Yuan spirit of ancestor Qin Tianshi had escaped and lost his physical body. Such a loss and price caused legalism to suffer again. In a short period of time, one of the two ancestors of legalism had lost a Yuan spirit avatar and a physical body. No matter how deep legalism's foundation was, it would definitely not be able to pay such a price. The converted forces were wiped out, their luck channels were dug up, and ancestor Qin Tianshi lost his physical body. Such a major matter was discussed by the two lords and elders of legalism. In the end, they informed the sage of legalism who was in seclusion. Before the sage of legalism went into seclusion, he repeatedly ordered that no one was to disturb him. Digging up my luck channels and destroying the foundation of my orthodoxy, in the secret chamber, runes fluctuated. The sage of legalism's aura was very unstable and intense. But after a long time, he said, "There is no longer any concern in the outside world. That's good. Before the heavenly devil battlefield opens, I will not come out." Sage ancestor, but what about Du Tingxian and his son? Are we really going to tolerate it? An elder cried out sorrowfully, unwilling to give up. The school of legalism could no longer afford to pay such a price. If the school of legalism still did not use any methods to stop all of this, no one would take the school of legalism seriously in the future. Those protectors are still around. Everything will change. Endure it. It won't be long before there will be a chance. When the time comes, everything will return. Legalism will not fall. That was what the legalism's sacred ancestor said, and then there was no more sound. Legalism, my Du family father and son are coming. Just when all the experts of the school of legalism had decided to endure, this sentence was passed through the school of legalism, echoing through many places in the school of legalism. Chapter 1787. Swish, swish. When these words rang out above the school of legalism, all the legalist disciples who heard them raised their heads to look at the sky. Their expressions changed drastically. The words "Du father and son" spread through the school of legalism like a bomb. Is this the legalism of Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu? Do you think legalism doesn't exist? You're too bold. I heard that the chosen and paragons of the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the school of dragons were all killed by Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu. Many elders and protectors were also killed by that father and son pair. Now they are here to kill. Is Du Xiaofu really that strong? I heard that Du Xiaofu has a big shot backing him up. This is looking down on our legalism. This is looking down on our legalism. This is infuriating and hateful. Many places in legalism were in an uproar. The news spread like a storm throughout the legalism. Let the experts of legalism take action and kill that demon king Du Xiaofu. It was all because of the demon king, Du Xiaofu. If the legalism disciples were to go out now, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of the other disciples of the 8 great clans. Even in places like the Beast region and Kyushu, no one would take them seriously. Old High Lord, elders, this is bad. Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu, and Demon King are here. The ancient hall was mottled with scars. A legalist middle-aged man rushed into the hall in a hurry. His face was pale, and he was panting heavily. As a protector, how can you be so flustered? What a scandal! The old lord of legalism frowned as he looked at the middle-aged man. A dignified legalism protector would be a powerful figure in the outside world. But now, after hearing the name of the Demon King and his son, he was so flustered and embarrassed. Could it be that legalism's luck was really about to run out? Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu are challenging my legalism. That little bastard actually dares to kill his way into my legalism. Does he really think that my legalism doesn't exist? The remaining elders, protectors, and experts of the school of legalism were all furious. When had the school of legalism ever been humiliated like this? They had already heard Du Tingxuan's words and knew that Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu were coming. That was why they had gathered in the hall. How many people did that father and son bring? The current lord of legalism was sitting upright. His face was gloomy as he asked the protector who had just arrived. "Lord, we still don't know. The people we sent out are all dead. We don't know how many people the Demon King and his son brought." The middle-aged protector was trembling. As a protector, he knew what had happened a few days ago. All of the legalism's converted factions had been massacred by Du Xiaofu's desolate country. Now, the desolate country's army might be blocking the entrance of legalism. Bastards, do they really think that my legalism can't do anything to them? They're here to invade my legalism. My legalism's actions have nothing to do with my actions. We can eliminate them. The Lord shouted, his eyes emitting a cold light. At this moment, the Lord felt even more complicated. The father and son were originally his son-in-law and grandson, but who knew that they would become the greatest threat to legalism? They had caused the legalism to suffer the greatest blow since ancient times. This enmity could no longer be resolved. The divine ancestor has decreed that legalism will not be born before the heavenly devil battlefield opens. The old lord hesitated. His eyes were vast with huge waves, but he gradually calmed down. He gritted his teeth and said, "Old lord, that little bastard has already killed his way to our door. If we don't do anything, legalism won't be able to exist in this world anymore." Some elders and protectors lamented. Legalism had not done anything when someone had killed their way to their door. This was an absolute humiliation. The divine ancestor has decreed that legalism will not be born. Since that little bastard dared to come, he must have some trump cards. The old lord was not stupid. He had lived for so long not only because of his strength, but also because of his intelligence. He no longer dared to look down on that father and son pair. If they were not confident, how would they dare to come to legalism? Legalism will not be born. Let's see what that little bastard and his son can do. When the heavenly devil battlefield opens, it will not be their turn to be arrogant. With the old High Lord's decision, the school of legalism could no longer afford to be tossed around, nor could they afford to take risks. The loss of any expert would be a heavy blow to legalism. At this time, legalism needed to preserve its last bit of strength. Hateful. Angry. When they heard this, a few elders and protectors sighed in sorrow. Legalism was not only being killed at their door, but legalism had even put up a "no war" sign. If this news were to spread, legalism would lose its last bit of face. "Old Lord, should we close the spatial wormhole?" the middle-aged protector asked. He was afraid that the Demon King and his son would force their way in. Back then, the Golden-Winged Pring clan's old lady, the old lunatic, and Fu Ibai had already swept away legalism. No need. If they dare to come in, they will be courting death. I want to see if they dare to come in. The old lord's eyes were filled with killing intent. He no longer had that calm aura. Once they entered legalism, he did not believe that the father and son would have the ability to reach the heavens. Even if he had to use the clan's taboo power, he would kill the father and son to eliminate future troubles. Wait for them to come in. As soon as they set foot in legalism, we will use all our strength to kill them. Each of the elders and protectors was filled with hatred. They hoped that the father and son would be able to break into legalism. At that time, they would be able to kill the father and son and completely eliminate future troubles. In the peaceful Sky City ruins, there was a spatial wormhole fluctuating in the void. It was filled with runes and affected time and space, but there was no movement. They don't seem to be planning to come out. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Looking at the situation, it seemed that the legalism did not plan to come out. There was no movement for a long time. They are waiting for us to go in. Du Tingshuan's eyes were sharp. His hair fluttered slightly as he looked at the spatial wormhole. That was legalism. Ao Tong was in legalism. At this moment, separated by a spatial wormhole, it seemed to be within reach. It was right in front of him, but there was a vast sea between them. At this moment, his heart was filled with complicated feelings. Perhaps Ao Tong did not even know that the father and son were outside legalism. "We can't go in," Old Lei said. Even if it was him, if he forcefully broke into legalism, it would be difficult for him to come out in the end. Unless the old master was still alive, he knew a little about the strength of legalism. "Of course we can't go in." Du Tingxian smiled faintly, but the curve of the smile at the corners of his mouth carried a kind of bitterness. How could Du Tingxian not know that with the current strength of the father and son, they did not have the capital to force their way through legalism? If it wasn't for the ban that forbade sage stage experts from taking action, they wouldn't even be able to step foot into the ruins of Sky City. They want to wait for us to go in. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. It seemed like the legalism was waiting for him to enter. Once he entered, the legalism would be prepared. Legalism views all living beings in the outside world as ants. Now that you're hiding in your nests, come out and fight me if you have the ability. Legalism can't even withstand a single blow. Come out if you dare. Legalism's luck has run out. No one can fight it. Legalism is devoid of virtue. Heaven and earth can bear witness to this. Their luck has run out, and now they don't even dare to come out. Are they going to be cowards? Voices spread throughout the legalism. In the vast square in front of the wormhole, many legalism disciples had gathered. They all clenched their fists and looked furious. However, no one dared to go out. Everyone knew in their hearts that the Devil King Du Xiaofu was no longer the same as before. Even Han Qianran, Han Yingma, the number one of the younger generation, and an invincible existence like Qin Wudi had been killed. If they went out, they would be courting death. Even in legalism, the Demon King Du Xiaofu had already intimidated the entire legalism. Bastard, this is too hateful. Why didn't the experts go out and kill that father and son? You said that the disciples of the school of legalism are cowards. Charge out. I don't believe that with so many of us, we can't kill that father and son. Some of the younger legalism disciples were furious. Their eyes were red, and they were extremely agitated. They wanted to rush out and fight Du Xiaofu. Quiet down. You're no match for him. The clan has its own arrangements. There were protectors outside the wormhole, scolding the young disciples of the school of legalism. Protector, that Demon King has already killed his way to the door of legalism. Are we still going to endure? A young boy asked the protector. He was very puzzled. Do you want to go out and die? That Demon King isn't someone you can provoke. Who told you to be so disappointing? A protector berated. This protector was even more furious and sullen. At this moment, the Demon King and his son were cursing outside. They didn't put legalism in their eyes. Hateful legalism, no one in the younger generation was a match for them. In the grand legalism, no one in the younger generation could stand up to the Demon King and his son. Far away from the wormhole, there was a tall and ancient mountain peak. There was a modeled pavilion at the top of the mountain. The limestone was ancient and covered in moss. There were many old figures standing there, gazing at the wormhole in the distance. Is legalism a cowardly tortoise? Legalism's luck has run out. It can't even withstand a single blow. It doesn't even dare to come out. Such words spread out and fell into the ears of these old figures. They were like bombs, creating huge waves in their hearts. Chi. On their aged faces, their eyes glowed with divine light, and their faces were twisted and ferocious. Crack, crack. An old man was so angry that his body trembled. The limestone beneath his feet cracked and the ground caved in. Bastard! An old man shouted. The corner of his eyes twitched. He couldn't endure it. Old Lord, what should we do? That father and son have been cursing for 6 hours. They have no intention of coming in. If this continues, it will be unfavorable for our legalism. Now, all the disciples of legalism are in a state of panic. They are greatly affected. Chapter 1788. A middle-aged woman said to the old exalt. Du Tingxian and his son had been cursing through the spatial wormhole for 6 hours. If this continued, the morale of the entire legalism would drop to a freezing point. At this moment, the old High Lord of legalism's expression was even more uncertain. When had the dignified legalism ever been humiliated like this before? He had originally wanted to lure Du Xiaofu in, and they had made preparations to kill him. However, from the looks of it, Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian had no intention of coming in at all. That little bastard is very slippery. It looks like he won't come in, said an old man. They wanted to wait for Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu to come in, but it was unlikely. They are blocking the legalism. Even if they don't come in, it is still a great humiliation to our legalism. If we don't go out, the humiliation will be even greater. If this gets out, the world will say that our legalism is being blocked by that little bastard and doesn't even dare to go out, said a middle-aged legalism expert. His eyes were burning, and his body was surging with divine light. His aura was powerful. The courtyard was quiet. It was not small, and the surroundings were quiet. The furnishings inside were simple but elegant. Two beautiful figures walked out of the courtyard. One of them was a beautiful woman. Although her face was thin and slightly haggard, she was still otherworldly and had an air of arrogance. The other was a young woman in her 20s. Her green dress fluttered in the wind. Her delicate face was as otherworldly as the beautiful woman's, and her ethereal eyes shone like stars. Miss Ao Tong, Miss Xiaojing. Just as the two women walked out of the courtyard, a figure appeared silently. It was an old woman in her 70s. This old woman was wearing a plain dress. Although she looked old, she exuded a kind of vigor. Her old face was full of wrinkles under faint eyebrows, and the vicissitudes of time were written on it. Granny Ming, my husband and son are here. We want to go out. Yes. The beautiful woman looked at the old woman. Her beautiful face was very calm, and her temperament was not to be provoked or violated. She was Han Aodong. She had received news that her husband and son had come to legalism. How could she not know the purpose of their visit? Looking at the mother and daughter in front of her, the old woman's eyes became a bit complicated and rippled. Grandma Ming, are you really going to stop us? Du Xiaojing spoke. His long black hair flowed down behind his head, making him look like an otherworldly immortal. However, his brows were tightly furrowed. Miss Ao Tong, Miss Xiaojing, listen to me. Even if we get out, it might not be a good thing. Just treat it as if the time is not right. Old Ming opened his mouth. His eyes were deep and spirited on his wrinkled face. My husband and son are outside. They came for us. Even if they can't leave, it's good to see them. Han Aodong's calm expression began to waver. That was her husband and her son. Even though she knew a lot of things, she could not remain calm at this moment. It's better not to see them. Miss Ao Tong, you are more intelligent than others. You should understand this better than an old woman like me. Old Ming said. But they are my husband and son. Ripples appeared in Han Aodong's eyes, and her expression began to turn cold. I have my orders. Miss, don't blame me. As old Ming finished speaking, seals formed in his hands. Mysterious runes instantly shone brightly in the air around them. In an instant, a stalk of grass was formed in the air around the courtyard. This stalk of grass was very large. The leaves on its body were long and slender, as if they were real. As the mysterious runes shone, a mighty pressure descended. However, that pressure made people's souls feel relaxed and happy, but it also made their souls tremble. It covered thousands of feet of space and bound Han Aodong and Du Xiaojing. At that moment, all the young people in the wormhole outside legalism were in an uproar. Even the Dharma protectors found it difficult to stop them. Du Xiaofu, come in if you dare. Legalism will definitely kill you. Du Xiaofu, don't stay outside if you dare. Come in if you dare. In the square of the wormhole, some of the young disciples of legalism could no longer hold back and sent messages to the wormhole. Legalism has no bottom line. I've been fooled twice before. They bullied me with their age and with their numbers. Do they still want to trick me into going in? Legalism, one of the 9 great families, doesn't live up to its name. It looks like it has completely declined. They don't even dare to come out of their doors. What a bunch of cowards. Where are those old fogies of legalism? Didn't they want to kill me and my son? Why have they become a bunch of old fogies now? It's fine if they don't come out. If anyone of legalism comes out, I will kill them. You can stay in there for the rest of your lives. Old fogies, where are you? Li Chenfa, that old fogey, had his primordial spirit avatar destroyed by me. Qin Tianshi, that old fogey, was beaten half to death by me. Has legalism decided to completely retreat? As the disciples of legalism cursed through the air, they were greeted with even more intense mockery and arrogance. Close the wormhole, legalism won't come out. In the distant mountain peak, in a mottled pavilion, on an ancient blue stone, the old sovereign's face was completely gloomy. He couldn't stand being called old fogies and old fogies. But now, the 2 old ancestors were seriously injured, and the divine ancestor was in seclusion. Under such circumstances, he was really afraid. Chi-la! The wormhole began to close and mysterious runes flickered. They are going to close the wormhole. Once the wormhole closes, the boundary outside legalism won't be something we can affect. It's more likely that the old master is still alive. Old Lei said, the place where legalism was located was condensed into a boundary formed by many ancient runes, which were set up by the supreme experts of legalism. Once the wormhole closed, legalism wouldn't come out of seclusion, and they wouldn't be able to do anything. Du Dingxuan's eyes flickered with lightning. He had cultivated and honed his cultivation all the way to this point. But in the face of the colossus that was legalism, he still seemed insignificant. His wife and daughter were inside, separated by a wormhole, but he couldn't step in. It seems that legalism is determined not to come out. Du Tingxian said with a lonely look in his eyes. Not necessarily. If they want to close the wormhole, we'll have to see if they can do it. Looking at the wormhole that was about to close, Du Xiaofu's narrowed eyes flashed with a sharp golden light. His hand suddenly moved, and with a flick of his finger, a scarlet-red ball wrapped in purple electric arcs that were spreading out suddenly shot out explosively. Chi-la! The purple electric arcs spread out, and just as the wormhole was about to close, a blurry purple and scarlet figure flashed into the wormhole like lightning. Retreat! At the same time, Du Xiaofu shouted and quickly retreated. Old Lei's and Du Tingxuan's expressions changed slightly, but in an instant, they also quickly retreated with the 8 puppets without hesitation. Chapter 1789. In legalism, the spatial wormhole was closing. The demon king Du Xiaofu was blocking the entrance of legalism. He did not expect the experts in his family to make such a decision to hide from Du Xiaofu. Rumble! The closing spatial wormhole suddenly emitted a strange fluctuation. Not many people paid attention to this fluctuation, but the guardians and elders of legalism on the mountain peak in the distance noticed it. Not good. Quick, everyone retreat, retreat. A hurried voice spread like thunder in the square around the spatial wormhole. The old supremacy was speaking, but his expression instantly turned pale with fright. Hearing this, a large number of legalism disciples in the square around the exit of the spatial wormhole looked at each other. Some of them did not react in time. Whoosh whoosh, some of them reacted in an instant, but it was too late. Rumble! In an instant, the spatial wormhole began to crack, expand in the void, and then explode. Boom! Boom! It was too sudden and too unbelievable. The spatial wormhole that was about to close exploded, and a blazing destructive energy swept out. In an instant, purple gold lightning arcs exploded in the sky, and the purple lightning arcs covered the sky. The entire void collapsed, and the majestic and blazing destructive energy filled the air, as if a million volcanoes were erupting at the same time. Rumble! The sky collapsed, the earth cracked, the void collapsed, the square exploded, the stone slabs swept, the mountains broke, and the mountain peaks collapsed. Not good. What is going on? At that moment, on the mountain peak in the distance, the old supremacy and other legalism experts were all shocked and horrified. The majestic and blazing destructive energy caused the guardians and elders of legalism to show absolute fear in their eyes, and they felt uneasy. Such a blazing destructive energy caused even the old supremacy to feel apprehensive, and a chill surged from the bottom of his heart, and his hair stood on end. Bang 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 bang. The void exploded, and the spatial wormhole collapsed. Accompanied by the purple lightning arcs, the destructive energy swept out, and a violent energy that affected space and time seemed to be destroying this side of the world. Roar, blood-curdling screams, howls of anguish, and roars of beasts converged together. It was as if ghosts were weeping and gods were howling as it spread out mournfully. Most of the legalism disciples around the spatial wormhole did not even have the chance to cry out before the destructive power. They were directly swallowed up by the destructive power, and their souls were wiped out. Outside of legalism, Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, and Elder Lei had already retreated far away. The void was exploding, and the heavens and earth were cracking. It was as if this world was about to be destroyed. Under such a terrifying aura, even Elder Lei's eyes trembled. That terrifying power exploded, and even he felt a sense of unease and fear. That kind of power was too terrifying. Bang, 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 explosions were everywhere, and the ground was cracking apart. It was a complete mess, and the aura was destroyed. After such a long time, some creatures on the sky plains were also attracted over. They only watched from afar, not daring to get close to the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Mother of God, what did the Demon King Du Xiaofu do? Is he trying to destroy legalism? That terrifying destructive energy exploded in the distance and swept out, and the creatures in the distance felt their hair stand on end. That kind of energy that swept out from afar was enough to make them tremble in fear. Du Xiaofu looked into the distance and narrowed his eyes. His eyes were filled with ripples as he looked in that direction. The void there was exploding, and a pitch-black space was beginning to appear in the sky. That was the power of the fiery thunder bomb. Legalism wanted to close the wormhole. Du Xiaofu was not stupid. He was still unable to enter legalism. At the last moment, a fiery thunder bomb was thrown in, wanting to destroy the wormhole. At this moment, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. The fiery thunder bomb exploded in the wormhole, and its power was like adding wings to a tiger. It was accompanied by a power that affected space and time. At this moment, if Qin Tian was inside, he would definitely not be able to escape from his primordial spirit. It was not difficult for Du Xiaofu to guess that the power that affected space and time should be the power of the wormhole. The fiery thunder bomb exploded open the wormhole, causing it to become chaotic. The destructive energy gathered together, becoming more violent and destructive. At this moment, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Legalism was already in a state of chaos and misery. The old lord of legalism, the current lord of legalism, the various elders and protectors were all pale. They watched as the world-destroying power swept out, but they were powerless to stop it. They could only watch as the disciples of legalism were engulfed and their souls were destroyed. The old lord, the current lord of supremacy, and the others were all top-notch cultivators. How powerful were they? They could naturally feel how terrifying the power of the explosion was. The fire wave that was covered in purple electric arcs contained a boundless and terrifying violent energy that spread out, causing a chill to suddenly emerge in their hearts. Not to mention that they were unable to intervene in time, even they wanted to retreat at this moment. Pung 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 ping, the ground cracked, the void exploded, the wind howled, and the lightning arcs were resplendent. Screams and wails could be heard. Many disciples of legalism collapsed, and their souls were destroyed. Such a terrifying energy exploded. The wormhole collapsed, and the entire legalism void trembled. Little bastard, how can you be so cruel? You're taking advantage of legalism. The old lord of supremacy roared. As he retreated, his face was ferocious and filled with anger. The wormhole collapsed, and a large vacuum appeared above the void. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the surroundings, floating in the void like a spider web. A hole appeared in the void. Looking at it, it looked like a piece of white paper with an irregular oval hole torn in the middle. Through the hole, one could see everything outside the white paper. At this moment, through the vacuum, one could see a vast ancient space in the distance. However, at this moment, it was a mess. It was too horrible to look at. Legalism. Du Tingshuan's eyes were straight as he stared at the other side of the vacuum. It was the school of legalism. The wormhole exploded, but legalism was not completely sealed. Instead, a gap appeared, revealing legalism. At this moment, as long as one crossed the void, they would be able to enter legalism. The spatial wormhole has been blasted open. The destructive energy is too powerful, affecting space. It'll probably take some time for it to recover. When that time comes, the school of legalism will be completely sealed inside. They'll have to rebuild the spatial wormhole. This spatial wormhole is completely destroyed. Elder Lei looked forward and explained the reason. However, there was still some lingering fear in his eyes. Do you really think legalism has no one? Suddenly, such a voice rang out. It came from the void, and a vast qi that seemed capable of destroying the world swept out from the vacuum. Qi La, In an instant, talisman runes shone brightly in the void. A claw broke through the void and swept across the sky, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Ka-ka, wherever the claw passed, the void collapsed. The plains below broke and collapsed, causing people to tremble in fear. Chapter 1790. Translator, H.2 Mr. The strong ones won't be below Old Lay and Old Madam. The sudden appearance of the claw print caused Du Xiaofu's eyes to shine with a golden light. It was accompanied by a purple arc of lightning that shot out. You're not qualified. It was also at this moment that Elder Lay's roar shook the 9 heavens. He raised his arm and punched directly at the claw. It was accompanied by vast and resplendent lightning that rushed into the sky as if it could shatter the stars. As this fist blasted out, large amounts of lightning runes interweaved in the void. Mysterious runes blossomed, and a world-shaking pressure shook the void. Rumble. In an instant, the claw and the fist collided in the void. It was as if they had the power to destroy the world, causing pitch-black spatial cracks to appear everywhere in the void. Such a vast power was definitely not far off from the terrifying pressure of the explosion of the wormhole just now. Dang dang! The might of the punch shattered the void. Old Lay's figure retreated a few steps, and the void under his feet cracked. Chi La, the other party, was clearly not having a good time either. His figure retreated, and the void behind him shattered. The person who came was a well-built old man with long hair and a beard. He had a vigorous temperament, and his face was old and vigorous. He gave people a feeling that he was past his prime but was still powerful and majestic. The moment this majestic old man appeared, his gaze landed on Elder Lay. Intense fluctuations surged from the depths of his eyes. Whoosh whoosh. At the same time, quite a few figures shot out from the space that the school of legalism had created with lightning speed, landing beside the old man in his twilight years. Waves after waves of powerful auras fluctuated. On the old faces, pairs of eyes were suffused with a crimson color. Everyone's expressions were extremely unsightly. They twitched because of it, and their anger soared into the heavens. Many of them had ferocious auras. They were all demonic beast experts who had reached an extremely terrifying level. Du Xiaofu looked up and swept his gaze across the people who walked out of the legalism. These figures were not unfamiliar. They were the old lord of the legalism, the current lord of the legalism. There were also many elders and protectors of the legalism. He had seen them more than once or twice in the legalism. In the crowd, there was an old man. Du Xiaofu took note of him. This was an old man from the Han family, and he was his mother's granduncle. Back then, he had tried to persuade Du Xiaofu to stay in the legalism. His status in the legalism was not low, and he was an extraordinary elder. His expression was kind, but Du Xiaofu did not have a good impression of him. In the crowd, there was another old man. Du Xiaofu also took note of him. He was also a member of the Han family. Back then in the main hall, he had attacked Chioli. His cultivation was at the domain level. Back then, when he faced that old man, Du Xiaofu felt that the domain level was a huge mountain. But now, Du Xiaofu did not take it to heart. Today was different from the past. Boom! As the people of the legalism walked out, there were many of them. Many of the old experts had gloomy expressions. Their faces were cold and indifferent. There was an invisible aura of anger surging, flickering with light. When they gathered together, it was like a collapsing mountain that could crush the void. Just these few people? Originally, these experts of the legalism thought that Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu, the Demon King and his son, would bring the desolate country's current lineup with them. This was especially true for the group of Heaven's Prides and Supremes. They were very terrifying and had a boundless future. Once they grew up, they would be terrifying. However, the only people who had come to the school of legalism were the Demon King and his son, so the corners of the eyes of the experts from the school of legalism twitched once again. They were actually surrounded by the Demon King and his son, and did not dare to go out. If this news were to spread, they were afraid that the legalism would lose its last bit of face. Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu, you father and son are really ruthless. The sovereign of the legalism spoke. His face was old, but it was still sharp and clear. He must have been very handsome when he was young. However, at this moment, this sovereign looked at Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu in front of him. His gaze was complicated and gloomy with resentment. His meridians had been dug up, and all the prodigies of the school of legalism had been slain by the father and son. Earlier, the spatial wormhole had exploded, and swathes of legalism disciples had been devoured right before his eyes. As the current sovereign of the school of legalism, it was easy to imagine what he was feeling right now. Legalism is the ruthless one. Du Tingxian spoke. He looked at the sovereign of the legalism with sharp eyes. Then he restrained himself and said, "I'm here to pick up Aodong and Xiaojing. Otherwise, we father and son will not leave." "Ha!" The sovereign of the era laughed. He laughed coldly and said, "Du Tingxian, I really underestimated you. I really regret that I didn't kill you back then. Otherwise, we wouldn't have reached this stage today. The heavens are fair. Legalism has no morals. Our luck has run out. This is retribution." Du Tingxian spoke. He looked at the sovereign of the era and said, "You are still Aodong's father. I respect you. Hand over Aodong and Xiaojing, and we father and son will leave immediately. From then on, we will have nothing to do with legalism." "How dare you? In front of legalism, it is not your turn to be arrogant. You will pay the price." The sovereign of the era had a divine light in his eyes. His aura was extremely terrifying. Legalism still has such a strong expert. He has not stepped into the saint realm, but he is stronger than Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi. He is not much weaker than the old lady and old Lei. Du Xiaofu's gaze fell on the sovereign of the era. This sovereign of the era was very strong. He had not reached the saint realm, but he had one foot in the saint realm. A demonic beast at the half-step saint realm. Du Xiaofu murmured softly in his heart. "The oil lamp has run out. You can't hold on for much longer. Every time you attack, you consume your last bit of life force. Even if you are at your peak, it is still not enough. It is not your turn to speak." Old Lei looked at the sovereign of the era and scolded. He did not take it to heart. The sovereign of the era was already at the end of his life. If there were no changes, he would meet his end. "I'm afraid you are about to run out. You can't hold on for much longer. With your level of cultivation, you can't protect them." The sovereign of the era looked at Old Lei and said, "Legalism's saints don't dare to come out." Old Lei said. Lightning flashed in the depths of his eyes. Hearing this, the old man in his twilight years was stunned for a moment, and his expression changed slightly. He already knew that someone had issued a ban. As long as the heavenly devil battlefield was not open, the experts of the saint realm could not take action. Indeed, no one below the saint realm could do anything to the former. Even if he were to take action now, he would consume his remaining life force. It would speed up the arrival of his end. He had lived for a long time, but he could not escape his end. He had always been seeking to take a step forward and step into the saint realm. That way, he would be able to obtain life force and even take another step forward. However, the saint realm was too difficult. He could not succeed even if he used all his strength. There were not many supreme geniuses in the world who wanted to step into the saint realm. Anyone who could step into the saint realm was a top existence in the world. He did not have much time left. If he wanted to take another step forward and obtain life force, a miracle would have to happen. If the saint realm doesn't come out, you won't dare to enter. It's meaningless. The sovereign of the era looked at Old Lei and said after a while. His gaze slowly swept over Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu, and the 8 puppets. Finally, he fixed his eyes on Du Xiaofu and Du Tingxian. There was some fluctuation in his eyes. "It doesn't matter if we can't enter. If the legalism comes out, I'll kill them. I'll kill them until the legalism hands over my mother and sister." Du Xiaofu said. His resolute face and eyes glowed with a fierce golden light. He did not hide his killing intent. "Young man, it's not a good thing to be too arrogant. I can't deny that your talent is extraordinary. However, legalism has a much deeper foundation than you think. There are too many secrets in this world that you don't know. Looking at Du Xiaofu, the majestic old man in his twilight years stared at him. His voice was calm and ancient, giving off a feeling of time. I already know about you and your father. Although I'm a mount, I still have some say in the school of legalism. If you and your father can convert to the school of legalism, I can guarantee that your family will be reunited. You and the school of legalism are one family, connected by blood. Why do you need to fight? Chapter 1791. The old man was a mount, but he had an extremely high status in legalism. He had been in seclusion all this time, wanting to improve further. However, he was invited out not long ago and learned of some things. At this moment, he wanted to convert the father and son to legalism. Again? The school of legalism is truly shameless. Du Xiaofu looked directly at the old man. Not to mention that his enmity with legalism had reached an irreconcilable stage, he would definitely not convert to legalism. Old Huang, there's no need to speak to this father and son. Offending legalism is a provocation. They should be killed. The old honorable lord spoke. His eyes were like lightning, and his aura was frightening and cold. He no longer looked like an enlightened master. As his voice fell, runes covered his body, and his aura was vast. The old man called Old Huang looked at the old honorable lord and frowned slightly. Then he disappeared without a trace. Old man, I said that one day, when I rule the world, I will definitely kill you. Du Xiaofu looked at the old honorable lord. That day in the main hall, he had been attacked by this old man. Under his sanctimonious appearance, he was the most hateful and vicious person. He did not even care about how many legalism disciples died. You are still stubborn. You have indeed exceeded my expectations time and time again. However, I have to tell you that there are too many things in this world that you do not know. You are making a mistake. The old honorable lord stared at Du Xiaofu, his aura fluctuating. His gaze swept across old Lei, Du Tingxian, and the 8 puppets. He said in a low voice, "You think that you have the right to shout at my legalism just because the Saint Realm did not make a move? This is too childish. The 9 cauldrons did not gather, and the 9 families did not come out. However, you are the one who offended my legalism. You are courting death. Why doesn't that old dog Qin Tianchu's primordial spirit dare to come out? What about that old man Li Chunfa? Is his injury too serious?" Du Xiaofu replied. Qin Tianchu and Li Chunfa were already in such a miserable state. How many people could the school of legalism still use? Bastard! Du Xiaofu's words were like rubbing salt on the wounds of legalism and slapping the face of legalism in public. Many legalism powerhouses, protector elders, and the numerous legalism disciples who came out of the vacuum clenched their fists and looked gloomy. Little bastard, do you really think that my legalism can't do anything to you? With just the few of you, don't even think about leaving today. The old great lord was furious. His cold shout resounded through the void and reverberated through the sky plains, causing winds to blow and clouds to surge. Let's attack together. With just the few of us, I don't believe that we can't kill them. The auras of countless disciples of legalism surged, and they wanted to rush forward. With just the few of them blocking the path of legalism, how could they not feel aggrieved? Countless disciples of legalism had been swallowed by the terrifying destructive energy, causing their hair to stand on end. At this moment, they were even more furious. You want to bully us with numbers? Is there no one in the desolate country who can do it? When the old great lord's angry shout reverberated through the sky plains, a voice came from the void in front of them. Swish, swish. When these words spread out in the void, countless eyes in the surroundings looked up in shock at the distant void. Du Xiaofu's gaze had also been fixed on the distant void. There were surging winds and clouds, as if there were dark clouds pressing down on the sky. A violent storm was sweeping over. Roar. Indistinctly, the roars of beasts resounded in the void. A large group of figures, accompanied by ferocious and vigorous auras, immediately descended on the sky plane. Thousands of figures transformed into streaks of light and flew over. Swoosh, swoosh, The rainbows were like lightning, appearing in the nearby sky in a few flashes. Especially at the front, there were dozens of figures descending first. A young man in golden clothes, born with bright spiritual eyes, emitting the aura of a king. He was the well-known red-bone horse monkey Du Xiaoyao. A little girl of 8 or 9 years old, wearing a long dress with starry patterns. Faint golden flames danced in the depths of her eyes, and there was an inverted mark between her eyebrows. She looked mysterious and demonic, and her aura was unconcealable nobility. This little girl was already famous in the world. She was the Purple Dragon Emperor. A young man with a fierce aura, his robe fluttered, his black hair was shoulder-length, and his body was well-built. His scarlet eyes were tinged with purple lightning, making him look like a ferocious beast. A tall girl with slender legs, inexplicably enchanting, and alluring red lips. This man and woman were the most outstanding military figures in the younger generation of the Du family, other than Du Xiaofu, Du Yunlong and Du Xiaomen. A young man in a black robe, with hair as black as night, covered by scattered bangs. His eyes were piercingly cold, and his thin lips were filled with arrogance. He stood with 17 young men behind him. These 18 young men were all upright, and their formless auras froze the void, as if 18 peerless weapons had been born. These 18 people were famous for their ferocity. They used their iron blood to intimidate the world, and they were the 18 sharp weapons of the world society. In the divine domain, they fought against the heroes of the Buddhist sect, and they were truly proud of the world. They were the world society's 18 heavenly guards. One of them was a young woman, graceful, slender and elegant. Her beauty could topple cities, stunning the world. She was Dai Xingyu, a mysterious girl, and not many people knew of her origin. A woman was floating in the air. She had a devilish figure under her tight clothes. Her slender legs, perky buttocks, and slender waist outlined a perfect and alluring curve. Her beautiful face was enough to captivate people's souls. Beside this peerless beauty, a woman's eyes seemed to be suffused with mist. Her long skirt outlined a graceful and moving arc, revealing an elegant and slightly charming aura. They were Ouyang Shuang and Yi Zijin. At this moment, there were also existences like Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger Du, Gui Che, Raging Bear King, and Silver-Winged Demonic Condor among the newcomers. Do you want to deal with it alone, or are you afraid that I'm not as strong as you? Du Xiaoyao's figure crossed the sky and landed beside Du Xiaofu. There was some displeasure in her golden eyes. Father, we're here. Little Xingxing landed beside Du Xiaofu. His eyes were clear, but his supreme aura was self-evident. Third brother, this is a matter between you and third uncle, but it's also a matter for the entire Du family. It's a matter for the entire desolate country. Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong landed and gently stood beside Du Xiaofu. The house is renovating, so I took the time to write. Chapter 1792. You told us to return to the ancient heaven sect and come here alone. Are you afraid that we won't be strong enough to hold you back? Zhen Qingchun stared at Du Xiaofu. His inverted triangular eyes glowed with divine light. He had a certain charm to him. At this moment, his body was exuding a faint bloody aura. The 6 wheels blood-killing formation was no longer suppressed by the divine domain. In the divine domain, the 6 wheels blood-killing formation had killed many experts from the legalism school of vertical and horizontal school, and had broken through to an extremely terrifying level. Zhen Qingchun had connected the 6 wheels blood-killing formation to himself, and his cultivation had also advanced by leaps and bounds. He had obtained great benefits. If there's anything, we'll face it together. Even if I can't help you, at least I'll be by your side, Ouyang Shuang said. Her beautiful face flushed slightly. Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Little Xingxing, Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, and the others had returned to the ancient heaven sect. When they learned that Du Xiaofu had come to the legalism school alone, they immediately led everyone to the legalism school of thought. They knew in their hearts that this guy was afraid that something would happen to them when facing a colossus like the legalism school of thought. After all, the legalism school of thought was not as easy to deal with as those converted forces. Are you looking down on us? A young man wearing a green robe with a green pattern on the outside walked out. His shoulder-length hair danced in the wind, and his skin glowed. His skin rippled with runes, and his thick eyebrows were slightly raised. His face was resolute, and his aura was even sharper. He was Emo Tianxiao. He did not speak much, but his invisible aura made him stand out even when standing beside Yi Piaoling, Du Yunlong, Dai Xingyu and the others. In fact, he could even stand out. As he gazed at the familiar figures before him, a faint bitter smile surfaced on Du Xiaofu's face. However, the blood in his body was slowly boiling. Legalism was too strong. If anything were to happen, Du Xiaofu did not want the desolate country to be implicated. At the very least, it would be much easier for him to escape. However, he did not expect these people to come. The world will be yours. The heavenly beast hall will be yours. The desolate country will be yours. You are the Rock Emperor. Yi Wuming walked out and looked at Du Xiaofu. His gray robes fluttered slightly, and faint golden runes appeared in the depths of his eyes. It was especially frightening. World Guild Moonshadow Hall will live and die with World Guild. We pledge our lives to follow the Rock Emperor. Li Shui walked out. Back in Tianwu Academy, she wasn't too outstanding. But over the years, the name of the Dark Moon bewitching Li Shui had spread throughout the 3 continents of Kyushu. No one knew how many experts were in the Moonshadow Hall that she controlled. No one knew how many people there were in the Moonshadow Hall and where they were scattered. Even the experts of the World Guild did not know, and no one asked. Li Shui had graduated from Tianwu Academy and was the junior sister of the first princess Du Xiaoman. She was even the senior sister of the president. With such a relationship, no one would suspect the Moonshadow Hall. And over the years, the results of the Moonshadow Hall were obvious to all. They were an indispensable existence in the World Guild. World Guild Blackwater Hall will live and die with World Guild. We pledge our lives to follow the Rock Emperor. World Guild Scarlet Fire Hall will live and die with World Guild. We pledge our lives to follow the Rock Emperor. World Guild Yellow Earth Hall will live and die with World Guild. We pledge our lives to follow the Rock Emperor. Chao Yu, Guzong, Huafan Kong, and the others walked out and summoned their artifacts. Their auras surged as they faced the legalism head-on. Roar! At the same time, the roars of beasts were like thunder. Large numbers of ferocious beasts flapped their wings and appeared in the sky like dark clouds. Strong winds swept across the sky, sweeping up countless rocks and dust. On the ground, terrifying demonic beasts appeared in their true forms. Although they didn't reach their peak form, they were as large as courtyards. Their fangs were intimidating, and their eyes shone with various runes. Their auras caused the earth to tremble and rocks to fly everywhere. These were the true forms of the silver-winged demonic condor, golden python, phantom chariot, phantom tiger king, violent bear king, divine ape king, and other demonic beast kings. Their auras surged out and swept across the area. The gathering of these demonic beast kings was definitely a terrifying lineup. Their auras shook one's soul. Facing them with their own eyes was enough to make one tremble in fear. Roar! Celestial Beast Hall and the world will live and die together. We swear to follow Hall Master to our deaths. Phantom Chariot, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Mysterious Dragon King, Stone Turtle King, Violent Bear King, and Phantom Tiger King roared. Their voices were like thunder, and their auras were terrifying. The cries of beasts rose and fell one after another. We swear to follow him to our deaths. Celestial Wolf Gu Tianxiao's eyes glowed green as his cape fluttered in the wind. We swear to follow the Rock Emperor to our deaths. Thunder Eagle King, Miemeng King, Yunzhan King, and King Hu all spoke at the same time. The 18 celestial beast guards will live and die together with the world. We swear to follow him to our deaths. Yi Piaoling, Qian Guyu, Silver Fox, Anya Ying, and the rest of the 18 heavenly generals spoke. Their auras surged, and their 18 eyes shot out dazzling lights. It was as if 18 divine weapons had been born, and the smell of blood filled the air. Tianwu Academy and the desolate country will live and die together. We swear to follow him to our deaths." A group of extraordinary young men and women walked out. Their auras surged, and their demeanors were outstanding. They were the current generals of Tianwu Academy, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Guo Xiaofeng and Tang Wu. With the help of the desolate country, the current Tianwu Academy had already regained its former glory. In fact, it had even far surpassed its former glory. It was already on the verge of forming a terrifying faction by itself. "We swear to follow him to our deaths. We swear to follow him to our deaths." In an instant, such words resounded through the void, shaking the entire sky plains. The morale was high, and their auras surged. At this moment, the desolate country had a lineup of over 2,000 people. Facing the legalism of the 9 great clans, none of them showed a trace of fear. Back in the divine realm, they had killed quite a few people from the 3 great clans. Their talent was on par with the prodigies of the school of legalism. As for Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Yi Piaoling and Mo Tianxiao, Du Yunlong, Dai Xingyu, Gui Che, Qinemo, and the rest, they were a group of supreme experts. Such a group of people, how frightening and powerful was that? The desolate country has actually become so powerful. At this moment, facing such a lineup, many disciples of the Legalism Academy, who originally wanted to surround and attack Du Xiaofu, were now trembling in fear. The aura that swept out from the terrifying lineup of the desolate country was enough to make the disciples of the Legalism Academy tremble in fear. Legalism's elder Huang, the previous sovereign lord, the current sovereign lord as well as Old Man Han, all looked at the gathering of the desolate country's supreme geniuses. Experts were as numerous as the clouds, while the Legalism Academy behind them had withered away. This was the difference between the rising sun and the setting sun. Legalism's elder Huang, the previous sovereign lord, and the current sovereign lord's eyes began to ripple. At this moment, they truly felt a lingering fear that came from the depths of their hearts and souls. The desolate country's wings had begun to grow. Once this group of supreme geniuses fully matured, which power in this world would be able to compare to them? At that time, it would be a complete nightmare for legalism. What caused Elder Huang, the previous sovereign lord, and the current sovereign lord to be even more afraid was that this group of supreme geniuses had all submitted to Du Xiaofu alone. No matter how strong a person was or how high they could climb, there would always be a time when they would be blown away by the wind. However, if this person had someone supporting him and a large group of people gathered to form a foundation, then he would be unshakable. That would be true despair. Du Xiaofu turned his head slightly and looked at the group of ferocious beasts and familiar figures behind him. He felt a little emotional and his blood began to boil. However, he suppressed this emotion at the bottom of his heart, and a smile appeared on his face. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu turned around. His purple robes fluttered as he stepped through the air. He looked directly at the old sovereign lord with dazzling golden eyes as he roared thunderously, "Do you have the guts to come out and fight me? I'll kill you, old bastard." His words echoed in all directions. The old bastard's aura of cultivation at the master domain realm could not escape Du Xiaofu's sharp senses, so he was not afraid to fight him. At this moment, Du Xiaofu wanted to kill this old bastard to take revenge for what happened that day. "Old sovereign lord, make your move. Kill that demon king." Some of the legalism disciples muttered as they clenched their fists. Even many legalism experts hoped that the old sovereign lord would make his move and kill Du Xiaofu. Chapter 1793. Old Lord, make your move. More and more disciples of legalism whispered. Someone's aura surged and filled the air with runes. The runes gathered in the air and shone brightly, illuminating the sky. "All right, I'll grant you your wish. Let's have a one-on-one battle." The old lord spoke. Although his face was gloomy, his voice was loud and clear, shaking the sky. Boom, boom. At the same time, a powerful wave of energy filled the air around the old Zun Zun. It stirred up the void and turned into a ray of light that filled the sky. It was as if the sky was filled with dazzling runes, as if a god had descended to the world. This old fellow is a few thousand years old. He still has the nerve to ask for a one-on-one battle. Little Xingxing pouted. His clear eyes were filled with golden flames. It was obvious that he wanted to interfere. That old fellow has lived for quite a few years. He's really bullying the young with his old age. Du Xiaoyao raised his eyebrows, revealing the aura of a king for no reason. He also had the intention of interfering. Ling Tong's eyes flickered. According to Du Xiaoyao's estimation, if she joined forces with Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing, they would be able to kill this old fellow. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He waved his hand at Du Xiaoyao and Little Xingxing. He signaled with his eyes and raised his head slightly. He looked at the old lord of legalism and said, "Let's have a one-on-one battle." Boom. The old lord of legalism directly made his move. The runes that filled the sky surged and turned into a dazzling giant palm print. It contained a vast amount of energy. It distorted the sky and carried a terrifying momentum as it slapped towards Du Xiaofu. The handprint was far too terrifying. It descended from the sky, and as the wind and clouds surged, the ground of the plains began to crumble. The living beings in the surroundings all trembled, but they were insignificant. They were all shocked. The old sect of legalism was indeed terrifying. Not enough. This was Du Xiaofu's verbal reply. Although it had only been a short time since he left legalism, things had changed with the passage of time. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation and strength, he no longer needed to listen to his preaching like before. At the same time as his reply, Du Xiaofu raised his hand and faced the giant palm print that was crushing down. He punched out with a powerful and domineering punch. This punch faintly carried with it the sound of dragons and elephants. It was extremely tyrannical. Thunder Lord. Rumble. This kind of collision shattered the void, revealing a vacuum. Space collapsed, and rumbling sounds rang out endlessly. On the ground of the plains, a large number of cracks exploded. Gravel shot out, dust and smoke soared into the sky, revealing a deep abyss and spreading ditches. The surrounding living beings all retreated in panic. Boom, boom. Du Xiaofu took 2 steps back in the midst of the violent energy, but the old reverend's figure also swayed, and he staggered a step back. Du Xiaofu can actually fight with the old lord. Everyone from legalism was stunned. They looked at each other in dismay and trembled. Was this real? Du Xiaofu's strength was actually able to fight with the old lord. It seemed that he was not at a disadvantage. Especially those experts from legalism. They felt their bodies trembling as if an electric current was flowing through their bodies. Back then, the young man who could only dominate the younger generation of the school of legalism was now able to face the old honorable lord head-on. He has only been cultivating for a few years. How can he have such strength? The eyes of the experts from the school of legalism trembled. This was too unreasonable. Just how old was Du Xiaofu? Even if he started cultivating in his mother's womb, it would have been less than 30 years, yet he already possessed such strength. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. He did indeed have the right to be arrogant. However, the experts from legalism hoped that the old lord would be able to kill Du Xiaofu. Did he think that legalism was a pushover? He dug out the veins and souls, destroyed the foundation of the orthodoxy, and killed all the supreme talents of legalism. Now, he was blocking the door of legalism. Legalism had been passed down since ancient times. It was one of the 9 great families. It was an ancient family with a long history. How could it be provoked again and again? The old lord stabilized his body and looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were filled with waves. Back then, he had captured Du Xiaofu alive with ease. It felt like yesterday. But now, the young man in front of him was already able to fight with him. This speed of growth was too fast. It was so fast that the old lord of legalism felt that it was getting more and more terrifying. Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Tingxian, Ouyang Shuang, Elder Lei, Shen Qingchun, and the others were all staring at the scene in front of them. Their expressions were calm, but there was a subtle fluctuation in them. Boom! Du Xiaofu stabilized his body. His aura swept out and filled the air with electric arcs. Golden light flashed and thunder rumbled in the void. What a strong guy! Feeling Du Xiaofu's aura, many experts from legalism were afraid and their expressions changed. The old lord's expression darkened. His eyes fluctuated. His body emitted a bright light that enveloped his whole body. It was as if he had formed a world of his own. "Old Lord, please leave this kid to me. Let me deal with him on your behalf." Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded in midair. A dazzling light appeared in the vacuum tunnel of legalism. A figure appeared in the sky. His body was dazzling, as if stars had descended. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly and felt a familiar aura. "It's him." Du Xiaofu knew who it was. It was his mother's elder brother. He had once asked him to dig out his heart. In the divine space, Du Xiaofu found out from the primordial spirits of many disciples of legalism that his name was Han Aoshi. He was Han Ningma's father. If it wasn't for the irreconcilable enmity with legalism, Du Xiaofu would have called him uncle. "Han Aoshi." Du Tingxian raised his head and looked at the figure in the dazzling light. Lightning flashed in his eyes. With Han Aoshi's arrival, the light on his body slowly disappeared. He was an extraordinary middle-aged man with an extraordinary aura. His eyes were deep, but there was an invisible aura that made people's hearts tremble. Peak of the domain realm. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Han Aoshi's aura was restrained, but Du Xiaofu could roughly see that he should be at the peak of the domain realm. He shouldn't be far from the main domain realm. Although Han Aoshi was much older than Qin Wudi, this cultivation was enough to represent Han Aoshi's talent. He probably wasn't much weaker than Qin Wudi, but he didn't seem to have reached the nirvana stage. Du Xiaofu knew that sometimes, the difference between a nirvana sovereign and an ordinary martial domain realm cultivator couldn't completely measure the difference in talent. Han Aoshi's cultivation was at the peak of the domain realm, but his current cultivation and the fact that he had a son like Han Ningma who had reached the nirvana stage were enough to represent his talent. Du Xiaofu secretly guessed that Han Aoshi might have encountered some mental obstacles on his path of cultivation, which caused him to be unable to reach the nirvana stage. However, with his talent he should have been qualified to reach the nirvana stage. Aoshi, that little bastard has a treasure that can explode. It's difficult for anyone below the sage realm to block it. Ancestor Tianchu's body was destroyed by it. He told us to be careful. As Han Aoshi arrived, the old sovereign's voice also reached his ears. However, that little bastard shouldn't have many of those treasures. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to enter my legalism. The old sovereign of legalism knew that Du Xiaofu had a great killing weapon on him from Qin Tianchu's primordial spirit. However, the old exalt believed that Du Xiaofu definitely didn't have many weapons of mass destruction that could kill peak experts of the Overlord realm. It was already a miracle that he had one. Such a treasure was definitely rare in the world. Otherwise, Du Xiaofu would have dared to enter the legalism long ago. Han Aoshi didn't reply to the old sovereign's words. Instead, he directly said to the old sovereign, "Old sovereign, let me do it. You don't have to do anything. I'll kill him to avenge Wudi and legalism. He'll have to pay the price." "All right." The old great reverend stared at Han Aoshi for a while before nodding. Han Aoshi raised his head. He had a slender figure, long hair, and fair skin. However, he didn't look feminine. His eyes shone, and his bearing was extraordinary. He seemed very young. "I'll fight with you. Let me see how powerful you've become over the years. Let's see if you're qualified to kill Wudi and Wudi." Han Aoshi looked at Du Xiaofu with a calm expression. His voice was gentle, but it seemed to have a magical power that could influence one's soul and bewitch one's heart. Han Aoshi was such a person. Among the 9 families, Qin Wudi was famous for legalism. Later, his son, Han Ningma, was famous throughout the 9 families. Han Aoshi had always kept a low profile. Even in legalism, he rarely showed himself. However, only the old legalism people knew how terrifying Han Aoshi was. Du Tingxian looked at Han Aoshi with sharp eyes. Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing didn't look too good at this moment. They were about to attack. "All right." Du Xiaofu nodded. He looked at Han Aoshi and nodded. His purple robe fluttered slightly as he stood in the air. He gave people a feeling that he was unshakable. His temperament was more peaceful than his usual domineering temperament, and more tranquil than his usual fierce temperament. Sensing Du Xiaofu's invisible aura, many of the old legalism people's expressions changed and they were shocked. Han Aoshi was also looking at Du Xiaofu. His expression was still calm, but if one looked carefully, one would see that his every move seemed to be in harmony with the heavens and earth, emitting a Tao rhythm. "This guy isn't weak either," Du Xiaoyao said as she looked at Han Aoshi. "Dad won't let me attack." Little Xingxing pouted. She really wanted to attack Han Aoshi, but her father wouldn't give her the chance. She was a bit unhappy. "Show me how extraordinary you are." Han Aoshi made his move. Suddenly, dazzling runes appeared in the air around him, and in an instant, they transformed into a palm print. As the palm flew out, the surrounding space shattered, and the sound of wind and thunder could be heard. The runes on the palm flashed, turning into a resplendent lotus that rippled out in all directions. Chapter 1794. Compared to that old bastard, you seem to be weaker. Du Xiaofu's arrogant words made the disciples of legalism furious. If this demon king Du Xiaofu could not be killed even if he killed his way to the legalism, then the legalism would have no face to go out in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu stomped his foot into the air. Spatial ripples surged and golden light gushed out from the soles of his feet. It was domineering and sharp. Amidst the rumbling sound of space, he struck out with his palm. The vigorous Xian Qi in his body was like a torrential flood, following the hand seal and condensing into a golden hand seal. A powerful energy pressure spread out from it, causing the entire space to tremble violently. This was the Shaoyang seal, one of the mysterious 4-division seals. At this moment, Du Xiaofu raised his hand to activate it. There was also a kind of spirit that could swallow mountains and rivers, as if he was the sole ruler. Boom! Golden light spread out from his palm. In a flash, it fiercely collided with Han Aoshi's refined palm seal. Rumble! Boom! On the verge of contact, terrifying runic energy exploded, destroying the void. The rocks under the plains exploded and the ground collapsed, spreading out in all directions. The surrounding creatures that were a bit closer all staggered backwards, some of them flying out. This kind of terrifying strength left everyone shocked and scared. This demon king is so strong. No wonder he dared to provoke our legalism time and time again. He was able to kill Haning Ma and Qin Wudi. Many of the elders of the legalism were solemn. Their hearts were heavy. This kind of brat, who they did not even take a second look at, was now a huge problem for the entire legalism. Boom! On the verge of contact, Han Aoshi's figure rushed out again. He did not say anything. He clenched his fist and punched out. Resplendent runes covered the void, shattering a large part of the void. Du Xiaofu did not say anything either. His purple robe fluttered as he rushed out forcefully. He did not retreat but instead advanced. He also punched out, wrapped in the light of stars. That was the power of stars that spread out, as if it affected a galaxy. Boom! The two of them attacked almost at the same time, and their fists collided. The sky exploded, and runes shone brightly. The plains were desolate and uninhabited to begin with. Now that the two of them had casually swept through the plains, it would have been a disaster if not for that. Buzz! Suddenly, Han Aoshi charged out from the dazzling runes. A vast and mighty origin spirit aura shot out from between his eyebrows, accompanied by a magnificent and desolate pressure. This pressure was almost the same as Du Xiaofu's mysterious spiritual root. Han Aoshi condensed a mighty wave of nascent divinity, and like a torrential flood, it swept towards Du Xiaofu. This was a primordial spirit attack. Han Aoshi was a dual cultivator of martial Dao and talisman Dao. His attainments in talisman Dao were even greater than his attainments in martial Dao. As a dual cultivator, Han Aoshi was able to cultivate the Dao of martial arts and the Dao of talismans. Furthermore, he had such a terrifying cultivation base. That terrifying primordial spirit attack covered the void. This is a primordial spirit attack. Many people in the desolate country were shocked. Primordial spirit attacks were what cultivators feared the most. A primordial spirit attack, however, Du Xiaofu was not afraid. Silver-gold electric arcs fluctuated between his eyebrows, and his body rippled with white divine light. A giant tree of silver-gold electric arcs spread out in front of him, taking root in the primordial spirit wave. It was like a withered tree that exuded a supreme destructive pressure. Countless electric arcs swallowed up the primordial spirit wave. Bastard, Demon King Du Xiaofu's body has fused with several types of spiritual thunder. They are the nemesis of primordial spirits. He is not afraid of primordial spirit attacks. Legalism experts were shocked. They knew that Du Xiaofu's body had miraculously fused with several types of spiritual thunder. Later on, Han Qianran's spiritual thunder was taken away by him. However, they did not expect Du Xiaofu's martial arts to be so ferocious and his primordial spirit to be so unbelievably powerful. Ao sure has also improved a lot in these years. However, at this moment, the old sovereign was shocked by Du Xiaofu's strength, and he also praised Han Aoshi. To him, Han Aoshi was only a junior. He had cultivated for only a few decades, and yet he had reached such a level of cultivation. In their generation, there were many peerless geniuses. It was a pity that these young people could have pushed legalism to new heights, but now more than half of them had fallen. Chila. Han Aoshi's eyes rippled when he sensed that Du Xiaofu's silver-gold tree of lightning was able to devour Yuan spirits and was filled with a destructive power. He immediately formed a hand seal and his Yuan spirit's energy surged. He was actually able to break free from the tree of lightning and transform into a resplendent axe. The giant axe cut through the void, and the mighty primordial spirit energy slashed towards Du Xiaofu. Obviously, Han Aoshi wanted to kill him. He wanted to avenge Qin Wudi, his son Han Ingma, and all the disciples of legalism who had fallen. At this moment, Han Aoshi was regretting letting this kid go. He thought that this kid would definitely die after losing his mind. He did not expect that not only did he not die, but he also grew to such a level. In such a short period of time, this kid in front of him had caused legalism to suffer such a heavy blow. This kid was still growing. He had only cultivated for a few decades, and now he was already so terrifying. In a few years, or maybe a few decades, how strong would he be? However, Han Aoshi also believed that this kid must die. He should not exist in this world. Otherwise, none of this would have happened. At this moment, the primordial spirit axe chopped down. Du Xiaofu's mind moved, and he turned into a giant silver-gold lightning tortoise. It was the Dharma idol of the earth-shattering thunder. It was indestructible and blocked the axe. In the next moment, the giant silver-gold lightning tortoise turned into a huge three-legged golden lightning bird. Electric arcs surged, bringing with them dazzling destructive thunder, causing the lightning runes that filled the sky to ripple in the void. It was as if they had turned into a wave of dazzling golden lightning that swept towards the primordial spirit axe with an earth-shattering force. Waves of destructive and violent energy ripples spread out, wrapping around the primordial spirit axe. Ao! Han Aoshi's expression changed. His hair danced wildly, and he condensed the shadow of a strange beast that roared in the void, suppressing the three-legged golden lightning bird. In the end, he withdrew the primordial spirit axe. Otherwise, if his primordial spirit was injured, the consequences would be severe. I'm not strong enough. Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and turned into a purple-gold stream of light. Electric arcs rippled as he flew forward. Behind him, mysterious runes undulated, and a purple-gold thunder rock appeared, emitting a domineering and destructive pressure as it pounced towards Han Aoshi. Han Aoshi's body was wrapped in a dazzling light, and a two-headed dragon roared out. The dragon's roar was deafening, and it pounced towards the purple-gold thunder rock. The rock and the dragon collided in the void, shattering the void and turning the world upside down. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as the runes shattered. Rumble! Du Xiaofu and Han Aoshi collided once again, and they fought fiercely. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had a true understanding of Han Aoshi. This person was worthy of being Han Ingma's father. He didn't reveal his talent in the outside world, but he was absolutely terrifying. He was worthy of being able to nurture a nirvana sovereign like Haningma. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid. With a half-step rebirth realm cultivation, his strength had far exceeded that of Han Aoshi. His comprehension of various profound techniques was also far from what he could compare to in the past. Merciless law! Han Aoshi shouted. He formed a hand seal and punched out. It contained a great momentum, and it emitted a majestic aura. Endless pressure filled the air, and it violently bombarded Du Xiaofu. This was the ultimate move of legalism, but Han Aoshi had already cultivated it to the acme of perfection. Every move he made was filled with a terrifying pressure. Legalism is merciless. Du Xiaofu soared through the sky. He didn't retreat, and instead, he advanced fearlessly. Purple-gold lightning fluctuated, and endless runes swept out. At their current level, everything was too fast. Han Aoshi's fist instantly landed on Du Xiaofu's chest. Boom! Just as the fist landed on Du Xiaofu's chest, a golden light bloomed around Du Xiaofu's body. Rays of light, like feathers, instantly condensed into a magnificent golden armor that covered his entire body. Screech! From the armor, the screech of a golden-winged rock could be heard. It pierced through the clouds and cracked stones, and an incomparably domineering aura swept through the void. Rumble! Han Aoshi's fist also landed on Du Xiaofu's chest at the same time, and the mighty momentum poured down in torrents. Tyrannical fist way! Du Xiaofu's fist also carried the roar of a dragon and the cry of an elephant at the same time. With an unparalleled momentum, it directly blasted out and landed on Han Aoshi's chest. At this moment, Han Aoshi's robe lit up, and a resplendent light gushed out in an instant, turning into a simple and unadorned large bell that enveloped his body. Buzz! Du Xiaofu's fist landed on the simple and unadorned large bell. Immediately, the sound of wind and thunder resounded incessantly. Rings of energy surged, bringing with them electric arcs that erupted with a dazzling light. Crack, crack! However, in an instant, the simple and unadorned large bell was immediately covered with dense spiderweb-like cracks. Then, in front of Du Xiaofu's fist, it directly exploded into pieces. Bam! The simple and unadorned large bell exploded, and the buzzing sound was like thunder shaking the heavens. It exploded into the void, and fragments shot into the sky. Pucci! Han Aoshi spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the front of his clothes red. His body was also directly sent flying. However, Du Xiaofu's body only swayed slightly. The resplendent green spirit armor dimmed slightly, and then it returned to its usual resplendent state. It's that armor again. Its origin is mysterious. Is it a treasure or is it condensed from profound energy? Many of the legalism experts present had already seen Du Xiaofu use this strange armor to completely destroy Moksha back in the Chen Wasteland mainland. Now that this armor had appeared again, its defensive power was too terrifying. What shocked the legalism crowd even more was that Du Xiaofu's direct punch had actually sent Han Aoshi flying. A peak defensive artifact that was almost on the same level as the heavenly dragon barrier of the dragons was blown apart by a single punch. What kind of strength was this? In the void, the purple-gold thunder rock's cry pierced through the clouds and shattered stone. It also destroyed the two-headed dragon beast Shadow. It flapped its wings and then disappeared into the void. Han Aoshi staggered and stabilized his body. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with shock. His calm expression finally began to ripple. Boom! It was also at this moment that the space around Han Aoshi trembled violently. Winds rose and clouds surged, and an extremely terrifying aura spread out. Above the void, strange phenomena appeared. There were stars revolving, ferocious birds soaring into the sky, and the universe turning upside down. Chapter 1795. Han Aoshi's body was also covered with mysterious runes. He activated his earth vein spirit. It was an ancient volcano that spewed lava. He was the earth vein spirit, When all of this appeared in the void, it caused the space above the sky to explode. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Endless runes shone brightly. They were so bright that they seemed alive. "Let's see how extraordinary you are," Han Aoshi said. His voice was still filled with a demonic nature that could affect one's spirit. The terrifying vision was terrifying, and it evolved into various techniques. These techniques merged together. This was the combination of legalism's techniques. Divine power surged, and the volcano spewed out. It also carried a terrifying primordial spirit attack. It was unparalleled in the world, and it pressed down on Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu didn't speak and was completely fearless. His violet robe fluttered while a golden, black and silver-colored palm print had suddenly condensed on his right palm, and it was crystalline, translucent, and filled with talisman markings. Without any hesitation, he shook his arm, and the tricolored handprint directly cut through the space, directly slapping toward Han Aoshi's magic power pouring down. Boom! Boom! The three-colored handprint expanded in the wind. The runes shone brightly. The three-colored runes contained a terrifying destructive power. It was the combination of 3 types of martial arts. It was the combination of 3 seals of Du Xiaofu's mysterious 4-elephant seal. Rumble, the palm print collided with the power of the spell. In an instant, the entire void trembled. Resplendent runes drowned out everything. Large cracks appeared in the void amidst a series of cracking sounds. The space was in chaos. An energy storm swept out in all directions. A pitch-black halo appeared in the void. It was like a black hole that devoured everything. Blazing magma poured out in midair. Rumble. The world trembled as if the sky and earth were falling apart. This scene made everyone's heart jump and tremble with fear. At the same time, above the shattered void, 2 figures flew out at the same time. Puff! Han Aoshi was vomiting blood. His face was pale and his hair was messy. He was in a sorry state. His meridian soul had also been shattered. Although Du Xiaofu was sent flying, he was safe and sound after stabilizing his body. The blue spirit armor, the immortal Xian body, and the Golden Rock clan's great success divine body made his physical body terrifyingly strong. Han Aoshi's eyes were cold and gloomy. If he fought with his full strength, there was almost no one in the outside world who was a match for him. He was at the peak of the Grand Dominion realm, so he could even fight an ordinary Master Realm expert head-on. Yet now, he had suffered a loss at the hands of his nephew before him. Moreover, not long ago, he had not even taken him seriously. He's so strong. Legalism. Everyone was shocked, and even more so, they were filled with a kind of fear. To directly shatter Han Aoshi's magic with a single palm, what kind of terrifying power did this require? This was too terrifying. Boom! In an instant, Du Xiaofu did not stop at all. He stomped his foot, and his figure swooped down towards Han Aoshi like a rock spreading its wings. Han Aoshi was moved, and a simple and resplendent armor appeared on his body. It was very majestic. He had not used this armor for many years. No one dared to provoke him, and no one dared to provoke legalism. At the same level, he would not even bother to use a protective treasure, but now he had no choice but to use it. Du Xiaofu's speed was too fast, so fast that Han Aoshi's heart trembled. He gathered his strength and turned into a ferocious beast, colliding with Du Xiaofu. The collision was very intense amidst the roars of the beast. Puff! But in the end, Han Aoshi vomited blood again. He was suppressed by Du Xiaofu and was sent flying. Chi! Du Xiaofu appeared once again. He was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. In an instant he was in front of Han Aoshi. In a panic, Han Aoshi's eyes exploded with a cold light. The long sword in his hand flew out, and the sound of wind and thunder resounded. The whole sword was scarlet red, and the cry of a phoenix could be heard. It was as if a phoenix had come into being. Blazing red light gushed out and quickly slashed towards Du Xiaofu. The sword light cut through the void, revealing a pitch-black light. It made one's soul tremble just by looking at it. However, Du Xiaofu did not retreat. He quickly tilted his body slightly, and his eyes were suffused with purple lightning. His gaze was filled with killing intent and determination. Chila. This sword fell on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, and the golden dagger axe exploded. Sparks flew in all directions, and a large piece of the blue armor's feather was cut off. Du Xiaofu's shoulder was also cut by the sword light, revealing flesh, but not bone. This sword was not an ordinary item. It was a treasure comparable to a sacred weapon. Han Aoshi had used it to create a gap in the blue armor, and also injured Du Xiaofu. Boom. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a cold smile. His fist exploded with golden light, and at the same time, it landed on Han Aoshi's chest. The simple armor on Han Aoshi's body started to crack from the chest. It was like a hot knife through butter, and Han Aoshi spat out a mouthful of blood. However, it was far from over. Du Xiaofu did not withdraw his fist. His fist opened into a palm, and his 5 fingers curled slightly. On his fingertips, mysterious talisman patterns flickered as if they wanted to tear the space apart. Energy ripples visible to the naked eye spread out from the claw. This was the rock's chaos-shattering claw. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's aura was like that of a peerless rock. The talisman patterns in the center of the claw were like golden lightning. It was as if a golden-winged rock was about to spread its wings and fly out. The domineering and fierce aura made the surrounding demonic beasts tremble. Chi La, golden light exploded from the claw, and like countless golden lightning snakes, it ruthlessly landed on Han Aoshi's chest with an incomparably domineering attitude, and went straight in. Han Aoshi's gaze trembled as he stared at Du Xiaofu. He felt a pain that penetrated deep into his soul, as if something had been removed. His pupils trembled, and his expression was complicated. However, there was no fear. Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand, but in his palm, a red heart was emitting heat. It was overflowing with bright red blood, and it was still beating. At the same time, the wound on Du Xiaofu's shoulder was healing. The shattered blue armor on his shoulder was also recovering. At this moment, the gazes of all the legalism people changed. This kind of shock was too great. Just like that, Han Aoshi's heart was dug out by the Demon King. At this moment, Han Aoshi stared at the bright red heart in Du Xiaofu's palm. As if he was possessed, he was stunned and said softly, "So losing one's heart would hurt so much. Why isn't your heart black?" Du Xiaofu looked at Han Aoshi's heart in his hand, as if he was talking to himself, but also as if he was asking Han Aoshi. He muttered softly, "Back then, when you asked me to dig out your heart, although it was my wish, you shouldn't have bewitched people's hearts. I won't kill you, because my mother wants to call you Big Brother. As for whether you can live like me, that will depend on the will of the heavens." Bang! When Du Xiaofu's voice fell, his palm shook, and the bright red heart suddenly exploded, turning into a rain of blood. Ha! When the heart exploded, Han Aoshi's sluggish face suddenly burst into laughter. Blood flowed out of his chest, and his laughter resounded through the void. "Aoshi, my son," the revered lord of legalism shouted, his face ferocious. His figure appeared in front of Han Aoshi, and a pill was stuffed into Han Aoshi's mouth, sealing the blood in Han Aoshi's chest. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said sinisterly, "Little bastard, how could you do this? He is your uncle." "Are you blushing when you say that?" Du Xiaofu looked at the revered lord of legalism with a calm gaze. The revered lord of legalism's face twitched, but he was finally speechless. However, his expression became colder and colder. Chapter 1796. Legalism owes this heart to him. Within the desolate country, Zhen Qingchun and Yi Wuming murmured to themselves. They were one of the few people who knew the whole story. They knew exactly what had happened. Legalism's coldness and heartlessness had left the purple-robed man on the brink of death. It was almost impossible for him to survive. Fortunately, the heavens had eyes and a miracle had happened. He had come back to life, and that was why he was alive today. Elder Lei, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing did not say anything. Their eyes flickered with light. Elder Huang did not move either. On his face, there was a complicated expression deep in his eyes. He furrowed his brows for a moment before regaining his composure. What a vicious heart! You have no respect for your elders. Heaven and earth will not tolerate you. You deserve death. The old great supremacy looked at Du Xiaofu. He did not seem to be affected by the heartbreak of his junior, Han Aoshi. Over the past few thousand years, he had lost count of the number of juniors who had died. Han Aoshi could only be considered one of the most talented juniors, but he did not feel any heartache. At his level of cultivation, other than himself and legalism, there was nothing else that could affect his heart. However, Han Aoshi's heartbreak was like a slap to legalism's face. It made his expression even more ferocious. I respect my elders and teachers. I respect my elders. The desolate country is the emperor. The imperial palace is blessed by the dragon Qi, and the heavens and earth protect us. Legalism is not my elder's kin. He prevented me from reuniting with my family. He has repeatedly deceived and bullied me. It is not wrong to kill him. Du Xiaofu spoke calmly. He was not a soft-hearted person. After experiencing so much over the years, he understood that if he did not kill Han Aoshi today, Han Aoshi would kill him in the future. He had not killed him yet. He was only asking for what he owed. Ha ha! The old great supremacy laughed coldly. His laughter was terrifying. His aura surged and flickered. You want to fight? I'll keep you company. The corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth lifted slightly, and the azure spirit armor on his body emitted a golden light. With the old High Lord's cultivation, Du Xiaofu had a chance of killing him if he went all out. The more he killed now, the less trouble he would face in the future. Little bastard, you still dare to come? While the old Zun cultivator was smiling coldly, a dazzling light emerged from the legalism space. A cold sound spread in the air and a gigantic wave of energy swept across the sky. Walala! Dazzling runes seemed to fill the void in an instant, illuminating the earth. It was as if some kind of god had descended to the world. A terrifying aura made Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, and the other experts present feel their hearts tremble for no reason. In a split second, resplendent symbols wrapped around him. It was as if a glorious sun was in the sky. An elder was in the sky, and his eyes were bright as they shot out divine light. They were as resplendent as stars. The patriarch has come out of seclusion. Greetings, ancestor. Greetings. The disciples of the legalism space were surprised when they saw the elder appear. It was as if they had gained a spiritual pillar. They were overjoyed. At this moment, even the old High Lord was secretly happy when he saw the elder. This old man wore a long robe, but his face was clean and fair. His gaze was vast and boundless like the sea, and it seemed to contain a world within it. However, at this moment, divine light was fluctuating, and it revealed a type of peerlessly fierce and cold aura. Li Chenfa. Greetings. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly. How could he not recognize this elder? He was one of the legalism's patriarchs, Li Chenfa. Back then, one of his Yuan spirit avatars was destroyed in the divine domain, and he was severely injured. However, at this moment, it seemed that Li Chenfa's injuries were almost healed, but the damage to his Yuan spirit was not something that could be easily repaired. Li Chenfa. When Li Chenfa's figure appeared, many people present recognized him. Li Chenfa's gaze swept across the void. When he saw Elder Huang, he nodded in respect. Then he saw Du Tingxian, Elder Lei, and Han Aoshi, whose heart had been dug out. The corners of his eyes twitched, and finally, he stared at Du Xiaofu with cold, killing intent. You recovered after your Yuan spirit avatar was destroyed? Du Xiaofu replied to Li Chenfa. You were arrogant in the divine domain. Do you dare to fight me now? Li Chenfa's words were like rubbing salt on the wound. He was publicly slapped in the face. His aura was fierce, and his gaze was intimidating. With such a loud commotion, Li Chenfa was in seclusion, and no one was allowed to disturb him. However, such a big thing had happened in the legalism space, and he was still alarmed. Looking at the scene and the remnant aura fluctuations, he knew what had just happened. Seeing that Du Xiaofu was able to injure Han Aoshi so severely, Li Chenfa's heart was also shaken. He knew Han Aoshi's cultivation and strength very well. How could Li Chunfa not be shocked to be able to injure Han Aoshi so severely without using his full strength? Du Xiaofu didn't say anything. He looked at Li Chunfa coldly, but there was no fear in his eyes. If the young one can't do it, the old one will do it again? Du Xiaoqing, Zhen Qingchun, Yi Wuming, Chang Guyu, Thunder Eagle King, and Illusion Tiger King were all furious. On the other hand, Du Xiaoyao, Mo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, Guqin Devil, and Gui Che were very calm. The old one is also courting death. Little Xingxing pouted and snorted coldly. What? You don't dare? Where's the arrogance of the divine domain? Li Chunfa looked coldly at Du Xiaofu. Dazzling light rippled from his body, sharp and cold, bringing with it a crushing force. However, Li Chunfa was also secretly pondering. He already knew that Qin Tian's physical body had been destroyed, so he had to be on guard. However, no one should have too many of such treasures. Otherwise, this father and son would not have been afraid to enter the legalism. At this moment, he seemed to be hesitating, which made Li Chunfa feel that this kid probably didn't have such treasures. Otherwise, why would he be so hesitant? Moreover, now that he was on guard, how could he be careless? This was another chance to kill this disaster, and Li Chunfa didn't want to miss it. Even if it's your true body, I will still kill you today. Du Xiaofu's azure spirit armor was suffused with golden light as he spoke. His voice was calm, and there was a kind of hidden majesty and momentum. It was like a dragon hibernating in the abyss, a tiger crouching in the forest, and a phoenix perching in the trees. Seeing that Du Xiaofu agreed to fight with Li Chunfa, Old Lei, Du Tingxian, Zhen Qingchun, Old Yao, Ouyang Shuang, and the others were all moved. However, when they felt the invisible aura coming from Du Xiaofu's body, they didn't say anything in the end. Good. Li Chunfa nodded and smiled coldly. In his laughter, his aura was also vast and mighty as he said, "It's a pity that this is not the divine domain." You talk too much nonsense. Du Xiaofu spoke. His calm aura was like a sleeping ferocious beast that had suddenly awakened. His aura soared into the sky, and golden light burst out. His figure turned into lightning, and purple lightning spread out from his body. Boom! At the same time, the monstrous Xian Qi in Du Xiaofu's body was like the sea, and it surged out in all directions, whistling in the sky. So what if you are talented? You are still too young, and your foundation is not enough. You don't have the qualifications and strength to compete with me. Today, I will give you a chance, but you will pay the price with your life. However, when the purple lightning filled the sky, and the thunderclouds rolled over and covered the sky, a bone-chilling shout suddenly came from Li Chunfa's mouth. His voice shook the sky, and the runes shone brightly. They contained great momentum, and they turned into a huge rune handprint in the sky. It slapped towards Du Xiaofu with great force. This handprint was like a palpitating light cloud that pressed down and enveloped Du Xiaofu. It was able to block the purple lightning, and its power was shocking and terrifying. Chapter 1797. The Peak of the Overlord Realm. Old Lei, Emotan Xiao, and the others raised their heads and continued to watch in silence. The huge, palpitating hand of light descended. Dust rose from the desolate plains once more as debris flew into the air like a storm. In an instant, the huge hand of light had already descended. It covered the sky and instantly enveloped Du Xiaofu. However, in just an instant, the huge hand of light froze in the air as everyone watched anxiously. Then, with a cracking sound, it was directly torn apart as if it had exploded. Boom! In the end, it turned into a surging wave of rune energy that spread through the air, causing the entire world to tremble. The terrifying energy swept through the heavens and the earth. It was far too shocking and terrifying. Old Lei took action. He turned into an arc of lightning and blocked the attack. He dispersed the violent energy and prevented the desolate country's group from being affected. Old Huang took action as well, blocking the terrifying shockwaves for the school of legalism. In the air, where the violent rune energy had exploded the most, a figure covered in purplish gold lightning stepped through the air and slowly appeared before everyone's shocked gazes. However, While the figure was covered in purplish gold lightning, the most dazzling thing about it was the huge pair of golden wings on its back. It was a pair of golden peng wings. They shone with golden light and spread out to hundreds of feet. The golden light flowed, and the aura of a true peng beast was present. The figure from before had probably relied on the golden peng wings to directly tear apart the terrifying hand of light. The golden wings shrank, and in the end, they became 3 feet long. However, their power did not decrease at all. It made Du Xiaofu seem like a ferocious peng in human form. The golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back now had 36 true rock feathers, and their might had increased significantly. This was the true supreme beast of the golden-winged rock race, incomparably sharp and tyrannical. Today, I'll show you what natural talent is. Your legalism is invincible among the younger generation. You old man don't have the qualifications to flaunt your seniority. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with purplish golden lightning, his silhouette appeared and the great peng's golden wings flapped, increasing his speed even further. Qi! Without any hesitation, he appeared in the air above Li Chunfa as if he had teleported. His hands were filled with purple flames, transforming into a violet flame demonic phoenix that flapped its wings and swept through the air. A stalk of nether insight grass swept through the air, capable of slaying evil and suppressing devils. A stalk of undying grass appeared in the air, capable of devouring vitality. There were even constellations descending, causing the sky to darken. In just a blink of an eye, Du Xiaofu had activated the purple flame demonic phoenix's beast energy, the grass of immortality, the dark seeker grass, and the stars Upanishad's beast energy. All of them had turned into a terrifying and sharp attack, attacking Li Chunfa from all directions. At this moment, Du Xiaofu fully activated his half-step nirvana reincarnation cultivation base. He held nothing back. Although Du Xiaofu's aura was still at the half-step rebirth realm after obtaining the 36 feathers of the true peng, his aura had increased tremendously. This little bastard is so strong. Sensing the attack that Du Xiaofu had triggered at this moment, not to mention the shock and horror in the surroundings, even Li Chunfa's eyes turned slightly cold. The qi in his body was vast and mighty. Li Chunfa did not dare to be careless. All kinds of legalism techniques, accompanied by an ancient aura, surged out and clashed with Du Xiaofu's various techniques. Rumble! In such a confrontation, the air around their feet cracked, revealing pitch-black cracks. Countless cracks also appeared on the ground of the plain. The Tao of legalism is boundless, the Tao is merciless, and the Tao is infuriated. Li Chunfa was an extraordinary expert at the peak of the overlord realm in the end. Such an existence was rare in the current world, and he was ranked at the top of the current world. So, he resisted Du Xiaofu's attacks with an icy cold expression. In an instant, his qi surged out like a tidal wave and formed seals with his hands. In the end, it transformed into a dazzling spear. The spear was dazzling and resplendent while talisman markings flickered. Countless fiend gods roared and surged towards Du Xiaofu. This spear carried the roars of fiend gods. In the end, countless enormous figures floated into appearance in midair. They were like fiend gods, and their eyes emanated divine light that shook space and seemed like they were about to overturn the world. Such power made one's heart tremble. Looking at it from afar, it made people tremble with fear and their hair stand on end. This is Li Chunfa's true strength. As expected of the ancestor of legalism, many of the desolate country's experts sighed inwardly. Li Chunfa was indeed powerful and definitely not ordinary. As an expert at the level of the ancestor of legalism, his cultivation was exceedingly high. Even they couldn't help but feel nervous for Du Xiaofu. Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, and Qinggu Yu's expressions changed. Qin Tianshur's body had been blasted apart by a single bomb. Qin Tianshur was definitely not inferior to Li Chunfa. Now that they had witnessed Li Chunfa's terrifying strength, they finally understood how depressed Qin Tianshur had been at that time. His body had been blasted apart before he could even make a move. To end up like this after thousands of years of cultivation, even if Qin Tianshi had left his primordial spirit behind to escape, his primordial spirit would have suffered from internal injuries. Facing such a terrifying attack, Du Xiaofu's eyes turned serious. Between his eyebrows, silver-gold electric arcs rippled. That was the vast power of his primordial spirit sweeping out. He activated the way of the domineering fist and the way of the sword that he had comprehended from several ancient stone tablets. In an instant, he saw through the essence of the terrifying attack. Then, his lips curled into a smile. He opened his mouth slightly, and a purple-gold electric light flashed wildly on his azure spirit armor. Just as everyone was feeling nervous for Du Xiaofu let out a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar and an elephant's trumpeting. Instantly, it exploded in midair. Ao, Du Xiaofu's roar was so domineering that it sounded like heavenly thunder. Arcs of lightning swept out, causing the world to tremble. Heaven and earth rumbled, and the fiend-godlike phantoms in the surroundings were destroyed one after another. Stomp stomp. However, at the same time, Du Xiaofu's figure was also pushed back. The violent force swept over the green spirit armor, causing the light on the green spirit armor to dim slightly. Surprise flashed through Li Chunfa's eyes when he realized that Du Xiaofu had blocked such a powerful attack. He was at the peak of the Lord Domain realm, while Du Xiaofu was only at the half-step Nirvana stage, which was equivalent to the half-step Domain realm. Even a Grand Nirvana stage expert would be equivalent to the Domain realm. There was still a huge gap between the half-step Nirvana stage and the peak of the Lord Domain realm. However, how could Li Chunfa not be surprised when Qin Tianshi was unable to defeat him? The way of law is boundless, the way of law is merciless, the way of law is enraged. In an instant, Li Chunfa's hand's seals changed again. Runes shot into the dazzling spear that had just condensed. In an instant, the dazzling rune spear began to spin, leaving afterimages in the air. In the end, it turned into a huge spear dragon. Ao! Countless dragon roars shook the sky. The image of the spear dragon stretched across space like a real dragon. It was furious and shook the world as it pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Screech! At this moment, a huge purple-gold thunder rock shadow appeared in the void around Du Xiaofu. Its mighty and domineering aura swept out, and its entire body was covered with dense purple-gold electric arcs. The pair of illusory claws under its abdomen exploded with purple-gold electric arcs, and the electric arcs wreaked havoc in the sky. It was like a purple-gold sun in the sky. The violet-gold thunder rock soared into the sky. It contained the profundity of lightning and the supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock clan. These two profundities were two of the three profundities that Du Xiaofu had comprehended the most. When they were merged together, they were even more domineering and destructive. The battle between the spear dragon and the thunder rock seemed like it would shatter the void. It made countless people tremble in fear. Even Old Lei and Old Huang were moved by such a battle. However, at this moment, their gazes were more focused on Du Xiaofu. Du Tingxian had been clenching his fists. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were sharp. He was like a spear that stood in the void. Dang dang! The space was already in chaos. Most of the experts present couldn't see clearly what was going on. The spear dragon disappeared, and so did the thunder rock. The overflowing lightning dissipated. Du Xiaofu's figure was once again pushed back in the void. Faint traces of golden blood could be seen at the corner of his mouth. Stabilizing his body, Du Xiaofu licked the corner of his mouth. Some of the blood was sucked into his mouth, making him look even more ferocious. Li Chunfa's face had also started to turn pale. However, when he appeared, he was already at Du Xiaofu's chest. His posture was like an eagle pouncing on its prey, sharp and cold. The sneer at the corner of his mouth made his aged face look even more ferocious. That dazzling spear also landed on Du Xiaofu's chest. However, Du Xiaofu did not dodge. He did not retreat at all. He allowed the spear to pierce through space and land on his chest with spatial ripples that seemed like fragments of space. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.